Okay, apologize for the delay. Thank you for coming this evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town Council for Thursday, April 22nd to order. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And before we get started at all, I want to welcome Nancy Murphy to the council. Congratulations on winning the election last week and a half ago. Seems like a year ago at this point, but you know, it's great to have you with us, and thank you for joining us. Nancy's been sworn in, and you're all set and ready to go, right? You've had the grand tour, and everything's good, right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. A lot to learn, but I'm very happy. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. By way of announcements, on behalf of the Merrimack Town Council, I would like to offer our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Alistair Milnes, who passed away on Friday, April 16th. Alistair dedicated over 16 years as a member of the Merrimack Planning Board, most recently serving in the capacity of Vice Chairman. His commitment and steadfastness to the Planning Board has had a valuable effect on our community and is truly appreciated. If you could join me in a moment of silence for Alistair and his family, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Alistair was, in fact, an extremely valuable member, somewhat vocal, somewhat got under people's skin every once in a while, but he definitely was concerned about what's going on in Merrimack, and we really are going to miss him in that position on the planning board. Upcoming town council meetings, we're meeting Thursday, May 13th, and Thursday, May 27th, both at 7 p.m. here in this meeting room for regular meetings. Eileen, did you have any other announcements?
As part of the town's 275th anniversary celebration, the Parks and Recreation Department is holding a family-friendly 2.75-mile run walk in celebration of Merrimack's birthday on Saturday, May 15th. For complete details or to register, please visit the Parks and Recreation Department website at www.merrimackparksandrec.org. Thank you.
Is that it? Short and sweet. Thank you. Paul McCallie is on vacation today and not with us. Otherwise, I think we're all here. And so he's excused. Is there any other things we have to announce? No, I think that covers it. Okay. Comments from the press and public. So if anybody wants to address the council at this time, the mic is open and we're here to listen. Pretty quiet. Thank you.
Tom?
Yes.
Bill Wilkes.
Bill Wilkes.
My cue was.
Oh.
So it's my pleasure. I think this is turned on.
Might not be. Is the light?
Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
So it's my pleasure to represent the Rotary Club tonight and to extend our best wishes to one member of the council. That would be Mr. Koenig.
Oh,
And we'd
thanks.
like to read what we read at the Excellence in Workplace program we did last week in the Rotary Club, but we'd like to extend that and read it to the council as well as the community. So I'm going to read this. Town Council Chairman Thomas Koenig is a dedicated leader within the Merrimack community who continually exemplifies a commitment to excellence throughout the multiple forms of service he has rendered with the public sector. His prior experience in local government has included service with the Merrimack School District Planning and Building Committee for 8 years, the Merrimack Planning Board and Town Budget Committee for 5 years, with 2 of those years as its chairman. Being a local resident for the past 30 30 years, and having professionally worked as a design verification engineer for Texas Instruments starting in 1991. I actually worked there starting in 1983, so I beat him. Yeah.
But you left.
Yes. Tom has also been prominent member of the St. John Newman Church and Knights of Columbus, participated in local scouting, involved with area youth soccer, and has an active interest in the FIRST robotics program. For all these important reasons, Tom Koenig's consistent and outstanding leadership is most worthy of recognition by the Rotary Club of Merrimack in 2021. Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We had another very important recognition for another Town of Merrimack employee, and that would be Kyle Fox. So I'm going to read a little bit about Kyle. Kyle has dedicated his life in pursuit of public service. Being a registered civil engineer in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, he worked previously for the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, and for 15 years worked for the Town of Merrimack, where he is currently the director of the Department of Public Works. In addition, he serves as the social media coordinator and troop secretary for the Boy Scout Troop 22 of Amherst, New Hampshire. He always exhibits the personal traits of being energetic, vibrant, and skillful. Kyle is always ready to render valuable aid to citizens needing the assistance of this key organ of local government. Kyle Fox exercises superior management over the department and frequently and successfully interacts with the Rotary Club of Merrimack with various projects such as Kids Cove, the road cleanup, the new Merrimack Police flagpole and club signage program. Kyle Fox is an individual most worthy of this high recognition. And I've had the pleasure of working with Kyle on the Town Center Committee for quite a while now, and he's an extremely valuable asset. He usually is involved in just about everything we do with the Town Center Committee. So congratulations, Kyle.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. That was nice. Any other comments from the press or public? Finley? No, it looks like none, so we'll go on from there. Did you have something?
I should have mentioned it during announcements, but I failed to recognize that young gentleman over here, Matthew Brown, is with his dad. He is extremely interested in politics to a level for a young man his age that I've never seen before. So, of course, I'm tickled, although we tend to be on opposite pages, but I'm still tickled that he came tonight to spend a few minutes with us just to see our meeting go on.
Awesome.
So,
Thanks. Welcome to the meeting.
Welcome.
Yep.
Hopefully you'll leave in positive.
Oh, and then I did want to know if we could move the first item under recognitions, resignations, and retirements to the end of this evening's agenda.
Good one.
Can we put it before comments from the press, or do you want it at the very end,
Without objection?
after the minutes?
We won't keep you beyond 10.
Okay, I think we'll pass on that motion, but thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Which brings us to recognitions, and first on our list is recognition of Peter Albert for service to the town of Merrimack. Nice try, though. What do I have? I think it's over here. I'm going to come out to the mic just because. Sounds a little better. Peter, you've been with us for 3 years, and we really have grown and done a lot of good things together as a council, and we very much have appreciated your being here. we kind of went through all this at your last meeting, but we did want to at least present you with a plaque that we generally give to counselors. If you are an employee of the town, you get one after 10 years, but counselors, just for being up here, putting yourself forward and taking whatever grief or whatever, getting your motion shot down, you know, things like that. It's worth a recognition. So presented to Peter F. Albert in recognition of the dedicated service you've given for more than 4 years as a town councilor for the town of Merrimack. It's a pleasure to present you with this plaque. Your dedication and donation of countless hours has made Merrimack a better place to live and work. We wish to extend to you our sincere appreciation for your outstanding performance from April of 2017 to April of 2021, presented on behalf of the town of Merrimack. So, congratulations.
Well, Tom, thank you. And I'm looking at all you folks, and you know, I'm not worthy of a standing ovation because you guys have been doing this a lot longer, and you guys deserve that standing ovation. Although I am kind of concerned that the statue at the Rotary that Bill Boyd was going to put of me is now no longer going to be there because he's going to be a state rep now. So I guess that motion's going to get squashed. So, but no. Thank you all. It was a pleasure working with all of you. Congratulations, Eileen. The town has been, my opinion, for 3 years, the town's in great condition. Yeah, there's things we can always do, ever changing, ever improving, but Eileen's done a fabulous job from my perspective. You guys, working with all of you, we're a team. We didn't agree all the time, but we respected one another and so forth. And Tom, you've done a great job. And the department heads, you guys are awesome. You guys, you know, it doesn't surprise me anyways, and we've been able to hire all these department heads from within, including Paul McCallie now promoting from within. That says something right there. And then your staff in every department, police department, fire department, town hall, DPW, wastewater, all these departments are all really good. When you get out there in the world and you see some of these other towns, you know, we're lucky. So I just want to say thank you and say congratulations to all you guys because you made it good being a town councilor. So thank you.
And then, of course, next on our agenda is the recognition of Eileen Cavanaugh for her service to the town of Merrimack. The town council to recognize Eileen for her service as a town manager. So Eileen, we really appreciate all the time and energy you put into the town and all the work you've done for us. And it's with a sad heart that we're sending you off. This is your last town council meeting. And I know I said a lot of this at the last town meeting, but I wanted to repeat it again in case people didn't pay attention, because unfortunately not as many people pay attention to the deliberative session as maybe we would like them to. So I want to just take a moment to acknowledge the contributions that Eileen has made over the past 10 years as a town manager. This being her last town council meeting as our town manager, she is retiring effective May 1st. In her tenure, we have faced many hurdles and overcome barriers as well as made great strides as a community. Eileen came to Merrimack at a time when our finances were stretched, our budget went to default, and our reserves were at minimum acceptable levels. Through her finance and budget knowledge, she was able to develop prudent budgets and build our savings, and has saved the town a tremendous amount of money through her careful and thoughtful management. She was instrumental in working with several key businesses who have moved into town, including Getting, Premium Outlets, Spraying Systems, Vault Storage, the Merrimack 360 redevelopment, etc., along with working with companies like Fidelity and AB to encourage expansion. She's been instrumental in dealing with issues like the Kinder Morgan pipeline, PFOA contamination in town, multiple wastewater system upgrades, negotiating favorable contracts with vendors for solid waste and recycling, dealing with DES and EPA on permit issues, and many, many more items. Recently, she was instrumental in getting the sewer connection to the Merrimack Middle School rebuilt at no cost to the taxpayers, allowing for the school to get an occupancy permit and allowing for potential expansion to the north and west of town. The original construction of that section of the sewer line had flaws which precluded the town from accepting the line as built. This alone saved the town over $1 million in reconstruction expenses. While here in Merrimack, she has brought in many top-notch directors and assistants, including Tim Thompson, Matt Gasparius, Sarita Croce, Dawn Tamala, Lori Barrett, to name a few, and promoted from within, including Brian Levesque, Matt Duke, and Kyle Fox, and others. Eileen has constantly been working to provide the best of everything to the people of Merrimack through working to train and improve the staff and focus on positive results, result-oriented service at all times. And maybe most important, she has constantly worked to keep costs and budgets down and provide the best value possible, always understanding and weighing the difference in cost versus performance/expectations. This has been a tremendous asset to the town council each year as budget season rolls around, and we struggle to provide services in an increasingly expensive environment while minimizing the increases felt by the taxpayers, you, the citizens of Merrimack. At this point, I would like to open it up if anybody else would like to make any comments about Eileen. Finley?
Well, I've worked with a few town managers over the years, and most were pretty good. But I have to say, hearing that list read out loud reminds me of the heroic efforts that she put in. The negotiations that she was able to manhandle and get to our benefit were mind-boggling. And I always tell her she's going to help me negotiate for my next automobile. But I'm truly going to miss Eileen and all this work. And I'm confident Paul's going to fill those shoes, but they're big shoes to be filled. And
They are.
I'm going to miss you. You've been wonderful. Thanks.
Boo. I said this as well. We've been on several battles, PFOA, NED pipeline, and we've had a lot of skirmishes, which I can't mention names of because it's all, Anyway, you made us look good. I think that's the biggest compliment you can say, because what the decisions we made were based upon information that you provided to us, guidance you provided to us. So I think, Tom encapsulated all of it. But the bottom line is it came down to that, so thank you.
Lon?
Yeah, I can probably trump anyone here with town managers that I've worked with, through, for, and around. It's always been an interesting experience. I met Eileen when I was involved with another board in town. Found her very, very bright, helpful, very diligent at making herself aware of what was really going on. There was no horse manure, and that's very valuable. I won't try to speak Nancy, but man, you're it. The best for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lon. I think it's well-deserved. Eileen? Barbara?
I know I'm short. I just, Tom mentioned a lot of accomplishments and achievements that Eileen has put in over the years. But, the one thing, when you have a woman who is a tough, smart, beautiful woman who gets the job done, I think people forget the softer side of Eileen. And I saw that right from the start when I was first appointed to the council. From the very first moment she met me, it was like, I'm here for you. Whatever you need, come see me. I will help you. And I think one of the most amazing things to do, for those of you who have never sat through a budget session with Eileen and Paul, is that Eileen quickly figures out what your buttons are. And she knows the questions you're going to ask. And so she always walks into the room prepared. And I know, you know, you've trained Paul as well, and I'm sure he knows what our buttons are as well. So, but, you know, that alone took a lot of emphasis off of us and what we had to cut from budgets, because by the time we got the budget, it was already done or on the works or in the works of being reduced. So I thank you for that, for making our life a lot easier.
I'm going to say my piece under Councilor's comments, but I do want to echo to Eileen that everything that's been said tonight, it would be the same words I would be telling you right now. And I believe everything that has been said tonight is absolutely personified in who you are, not just here as our manager, but who you are as a person. So wish you health and happiness. Thank you so much for your 10 years of impeccable service to this community. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So Eileen? Can I say something? Yeah, sure. There or here.
As you know, I'm not real eloquent at this type of thing. Despite being years in public services, this isn't an easy thing for me to speak publicly, believe it or not. But I wasn't a person that was born wealthy or any of those kinds of things. I never knew that I would even really become much of anything. I used to work in a retail store, and I kind of thought that that was my way to go. And somebody, people got my Irish up and got me angry, and I decided that I was going to show them, and I was going to, make myself better myself. So I got into finance, loved finance. That was kind of my thing because it was easy. It was, numbers and things. And about 20 years ago, it kind of led me down the path to be a city manager. And wow, was that a daunting task. I was scared to death. I basically dove head first into the situation. And but what I learned was that I had a lot to learn, and that there were a lot of people that knew so much. Those things that I didn't know, there were people, the employees, the council members, the public, they knew those things, and they could teach me. And I could ask every dumb question that I had to ask. And it was very humbling, and but it's always stood me in good stead, is to learn and keep asking questions, and don't worry about sounding like you don't know what you're doing, because sometimes you don't. So anyway, so when I came here, my first meeting, as you may recall, was I kind of wandered into the deliberative session when the pay-as-you-throw thing was going on. That was my first introduction. I walked in, and I'd worked for cities before, so I'd never even gone to a town meeting type of a situation. And I went in, and all these people with their pitchforks and their, everyone was angry and everything. And I think what kind of exemplified that meeting for me was when Lynn Christensen got up and said, let's use our Merrimack rules, which are courtesy and listening to other people, and that kind of thing. And that's how people conducted themselves. They expressed themselves, but they were respectful, and they got their message across. So I thank everybody here for everything that you've taught me. Always wherever you go, you have a lot to learn. I can't possibly know everything about what the police do and what the fire department does, or what a guy who's plowing our snow is faced with, or engineering, or any of a wastewater treatment plant, any of those kinds of things. I can't possibly know all those things. So I'm very grateful to the council, to all the employees, for being patient with me and listening to my dumb questions and answering them over and over again until I get things through my head. And to the council members, I have never worked with a group of people with so much integrity. When I first entered this field, one of my biggest fears was that I would go and work for a community that was corrupt, or that there were secret dealings going on behind closed doors and that kind of thing. But here it's not. Everything is open. Everything is clear. We try to make everything clear, and you, because you require it. You want whatever you do to be understood by the public, and you also care that you're not here to impose your wishes upon the public, but to provide them services that they couldn't otherwise provide themselves in a cost-effective manner. So I appreciate all of you. You've been wonderful, really wonderful to me, and I've enjoyed working with every one of you and all the employees. So thank you so much. So.
Okay. Traditionally, for employees that have been here for, 30 or 35 years, we give them a rocking chair, a Boston rocker, a nice rocking chair that they can relax in and stuff in their retirement. But knowing that Eileen is not prepared to relax, she hasn't technically been here 35 years, although there are times when it seems like it. We thought we'd give her a slightly reduced size rocking chair. So, congratulations.
It's easy to move, too.
What we didn't want to do was fill up her apartment with lots of things that she wouldn't want to use. So we gave her something small she can appreciate and remember. And then as one last token of our thanks, not necessarily on the joking side, again, realizing that you don't like a lot of knickknacks and things like that, or hoping that that's the case, we have a card for you from the town council and the staff, and we want to present that to you and wish you the very best in your retirement, and thanks for all that you've done for us. And just in case we haven't embarrassed her enough, if there's anybody else that wants to add anything at this time, feel free. Or not. Go ahead.
So,
You can bend it down a little bit.
bend it down.
There you
Okay.
go.
Hi. So Eileen and I have worked a lot together over the last 6 years, and I wanted to just say the very first time I met her, I was scared to death of her. I was just scared to death of her. And after that point, she is the most remarkable town manager that anyone could ever work with. To say that she prepares us, I mean, we have spent countless hours preparing for all of that PFOA stuff we talk about, countless hours on doing other things. And her patience with me and all my stupid questions has been incredible. So I tried to find a quote. Of course, I was surfing the internet, on leadership, and I was trying to find a quote that I thought exemplified who you are as a person and how much you mean to me and your style. So it's Chris Hadfield, and I didn't know he was an astronaut, but he was, and he was the former commander of the International Space Station. And he said, ultimately, leadership is not about glorious crowning acts. It's about keeping your team focused on a goal and motivated to do their best to achieve it, especially when the stakes are high and the consequences really matter. It's about laying down the groundwork for others' success and standing back and letting them shine. And that is so you. So thank you so much for everything. I am going to miss you so much.
I'm sorry, an open mic is just too tempting. For everybody that's been recognized here tonight, it makes me so happy to be a part of Merrimack. I've known Tom since he moved into town. I've known Kyle Fox since he got his first driver's license at 16. and we've worked together on a variety of things. Eileen has done a great job. I love the fact that she gave us Tom Boland for the trustees business. And I remember meeting Peter Albert the first time in 1989. He was a detective then and helped out my family in a tough time. And the list goes on. I just want to say this is a great place, and all of you folks are what make it so good.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. So Eileen, congratulations, thank you, and we hope you enjoy that card. I don't know if you've checked it out yet, but you're welcome to take a look. It won't pop open in front of you.
It might sing. No. Don't look at me.
Okay.
We're not looking. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And that was a group effort between the council and your staff to put together, and we hope you enjoy it.
Wow. Thank you. Very, very, very,
Okay. That brings us to reorganization of the town council. Every year when we get together after the election, we have to decide where we want to go. And per the charter, Article 4-2, the organizational meeting, that's what this is. And we need to elect for the upcoming year a chairman and vice chairman. And then there's some other organizational stuff that we'll be doing throughout the day. Peter, thank you very much. Kathy, thank you for putting up with him being at all our meetings.
Good evening, Peter. You've done very well.
A point of personal privilege, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Thank you. As my colleagues enter into deliberations tonight, I ask that they not include me in their deliberations for either chair or vice chair. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. So at this point, because I always forget how we do this and we kind of wing it each time.
I know.
We'll look for nominations for chairman of the town council.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Lon Woods to be chairman of the town council.
You have to.
No need for a second.
No, but he has to
He has to
accept or deny.
accept. He has to accept or deny.
I thank you very, very much, Representative Boyd, council member, but I must most respectfully decline.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy?
I'd like to nominate Tom Koenig as chair.
Second.
Okay, seconds are not required.
You
But
got
thank
one
you.
anyways.
I appreciate that. And I would be happy to serve again if that's the wishes of the council. I've enjoyed being in this opportunity, in this position. Helps me feel like I have a better understanding of what's going on. And as I think Finley has pointed out, it really makes you pay attention a little bit more because you have to stand up here and go through the whole thing. So I would be happy to do that. Are there any other nominations?
No, but I'd like to speak to the nomination.
Okay.
I think Tom has done a fine job with everything that's gone on. When we had the pipeline, I thought that'll be it. It'll be a nice, easy ride for another 10 years. And then, of course,
So
CFO
you're the one who cursed
I
us.
did. I did. So, but I appreciate all the efforts that have gone on with that, as well as my other colleagues who obviously have invested deep time on that whole PFOA problem. But you've run the ship well for us, I think, and so I support your nomination.
And to amplify Councilor Rothaus's comments, having sat next to you as Will Riker #1 for the last 2 years, though you never said make it so, which is good. It's kind of a good thing.
That away.
Your stewardship and leadership over the last 2 years as it relates to Saint-Gobain alone, I think has given this community a strong level of assurance that the council's engaged, that we care, and we're fully committed to ensuring that the best outcome occurs for our community. With your technical expertise and background, certainly that component has been invaluable in being able to take a complex message, obviously with the help of people like Eileen and Sarita, but being able to take complex ideas and synthesize it so that people in the community can understand it simply and understand the issue at hand has just, it's been a tremendous resource. So I, like Councilor Rothaus, appreciate your leadership over the last 2 years and enthusiastically support your renomination. So, thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
The only other additional comment, it's nothing new. I've said it more than once. But the chair, the vice chair are all equal positions with the rest of the council. No one is more important than anyone, and you've manifested that, and I've appreciated that. So that's why I'm really comfortable as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Going twice. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote, I guess. All those in favor of Tom Koenig for Town Council Chair for the next year signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? I'll abstain. So that passes 6-0-1.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much for your vote of confidence. I appreciate that. I know that there are times when it seems appropriate to move the chair around, but there are also times when you get better continuity. And I think right now we're in a kind of a flux situation. We have a relatively new police chief, a relatively new fire chief, new town manager coming in, new finance director to back him up. So there's a lot of change going on in the community, and so consistency and much of the board is consistent here, which will help us all out, I think, to make it through this. So thank you very much. At this point, we need a position of vice chair, because I'm not going to be here at the next meeting. Lon?
I'd like to nominate Councilor Finley Rothaus as vice chair of the council.
Okay. Finley, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair? I must admit, I can't think of a better person to support and come up with ideas and drive issues and things like that. Any of us would be good. Finley is just awesome at that kind of position. When he was down chair, he did a great job, and I know sometimes time gets away from us and we don't have as much as we'd like to dedicate to everything, but I think it would be an awesome situation. Any other comments or nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Finley's abstaining. That passes 6-0-1. So congratulations, Finley.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes our reorganization of the council. We'll later on be discussing committee assignments and things of that nature. And we have, I think we have the list of
It's in there.
previous assignments. And we'll go forward with that. So that brings us to appointments. And again, thank you for your trust and confidence in me for another year. Trustee of the Trust Funds Update and Review, submitted by Trustee of the Trust Funds Chairman, Chris Christensen. The Town Council to be presented with the details of the performance update of the trustees of the trust funds. Chris, and you have all of the trustees here with you, right? So, so Bill Wilkes and Jack Balcom and Chris Christensen are our trustees of the trust funds. You can probably sit up close, but theoretically, we're not supposed to get too close. You can sit there, we don't care. Just ignore that. Just ignore that.
I do have the shot, if it matters.
Me too, but
So do all of the trustees do. I think, first of all, yes, I'm Chris Christensen, Jack Balcom is a co-trustee, and Bill Wilkes is a co-trustee.
and just reelected, is that right, for another 3-year term?
Just reelected for another 3-year term. So that's the point. There's 3 of us. We each get elected on a rotating, or whoever the trustees are, get reelected on a 3-year cycle. And it works out pretty well. If there were a vacancy for some reason, that would be appointed by the town council to fill in that particular seat.
The remaining year until the next town election?
Exactly.
Correct, yeah.
So, what do the trustees do? We manage money for the town that comes to us either through bequests or through town meeting on warrant articles and capital reserve funds and the like. And at the same time, we fulfill the same function for the Merrimack Village District and the school district. So we've kind of got our fingers in all 3 pies, and it really makes it interesting to see how different management styles go from different boards, and we'll touch on that a little bit later as we go forward. We also have, as mentioned earlier, assistance from Tom Boland. He's a great help. And we have professional investment advisors from Cambridge Trust Company. And as a security issue, we do not write checks. We send a letter of instruction to the bank, and they write the checks. Everything comes out of them. So the auditors love that we don't actually touch the money. However, we do operate under the RSAs, and that prohibits us from holding other offices. So none of us is eligible to be a town council member or a selectman or a school board member or treasurer of either of those bodies. So we've got our fingers in a lot of pies, but we can't reach too far. With that in mind, we have a total portfolio of about $19 million. You've got exact numbers in your kits, but for the people at home, it's just an easy number to think of $19 million. About 11 million of that is capital reserve funds, and the remaining 8 million is what we refer to as permanent funds. So the capital reserve funds, there's about 5 million for the town, a little over 5 million for the Merrimack Village District, and the school district has just under 1 million. So when we talked about different management styles, the school district, for example, barely uses capital reserve funds. They just put everything in the operating budget and press on. The Merrimack Village District has long-range plans. They're saving money for 2 or 3 or 4 other things, system development and the like. But they put in money from for those long-term projects. The town, on the other hand, uses capital reserve funds somewhat as working capital and sometimes for long-term type things. And then we have the sewer funds, which are sometimes referred to as enterprise funds. And They operate a little bit differently, but we still hold the funds for them. So there's different aspects that we all have to deal with. I think the other point that we want to make is there's a little bit of a different management style for the types of funds. Capital reserve funds are protected, if you will. We can't do crazy investment stuff with them. We can only invest in government guaranteed or FDIC guaranteed vehicles. Mostly right now, we're invested in certificates of deposit, and we have to, or through Cambridge Trust, we keep those at a variety of banks around the country because we can't go to have more than $250,000 in any one bank. So when you got $10 million like that, there's a lot of spreading around to do. A lot of banks. Now, you got to remember that the capital reserve funds are split up a little bit from different ownership. So we could have something at the same bank from the MVD and the town, different ownership, but still protected. And that's all required by state law. The permanent funds relate to, I guess the most permanent is cemetery perpetual care. You can't get much more perpetual than that. And most of the money there is tied up with Last Rest Cemetery as the largest cemetery in town and still growing. The other types of things we have, over the years, people have left money to the town for school district, library. We have the Shed Harris Fund, which is left for fire protection in the village of Reed's Ferry. Fortunately, it's very wide open instead of somebody leaving us money to feed the horses in Reed's Ferry, at the fire station in Reed's Ferry. But there are situations like that, and on occasion, trustees have to go to court and get something like that overturned to make it more in keeping with current times. So we also, even getting down to the nitty-gritty, we have 3 flower funds. We put flowers on 3 graves at Last Rest. We've been encouraged by the, and those have been there for 50 years, but we've been encouraged by the Attorney General not to accept those types of things anymore. It's just too cumbersome for us to handle, and the expenses of it are unworthy of our efforts, I guess is their feeling. So I think other than that, you all have spreadsheets showing a listing of all the capital reserve fund, or the amounts of capital reserve funds. You have a spreadsheet showing the permanent funds, and I think it's probably better at this point just to answer questions if you have some.
Okay. Does anybody have questions of the trustees of the trust funds? Lon?
Yeah, it's never too late to learn. I could not teach myself the difference between ending balance and ending fair market balance. If you could just tell me that.
The ending balance usually relates to a cost of whatever it was we bought. Telephone company, we bought stock in telephone, it cost us $20, and that ending balance is based on that $20. But it may be worth $25 now, which is the fair market value, if we sold it.
Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, thank you for coming tonight and talking to us. Appreciate it, and thank you for the information. Correct me if I'm wrong, did you switch fiduciaries to Cambridge Trust, was it last year or 2 years ago?
No, we swapped to them more like 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
For capital reserve funds. And part of the reason for that was our capital reserve funds at the time were managed by Merrill Lynch. which is a part of Bank of America.
Right.
And for whatever reasons, Bank of America decided they didn't want to deal with municipal monies anymore. So we had to change that.
Okay.
And then all the permanent funds were with Ameriprise, thank you. And our representative there, Larry Hodkinson, retired. Now, he'd been very generous with us and didn't charge us any fees. But when he retired, the people that would have filled in for him were less interested because we were buying individual stocks and doing not a lot of trading, but we weren't buying their mutual funds. And they wanted to sell mutual funds. So we interviewed or got applications from about 15 or 18 different money management companies and banks and so forth. And Cambridge Trust came up with the best deal, both in terms of cost and service and record of performance.
And custodial, they've been doing a good job, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. The follow-up question, if I could, Mr. Chairman, is where, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
has there been any resolution as to the dedication of Shed Harris Fund?
Nobody has come to us asking for money.
Okay,
So we just hold it and it grows. The Shed Harris Fund started, it's kind of a funny deal. The
Well,
intent of it is fire protection in Reed's Ferry.
correct.
If you may remember Harris Ave, Addie Harris died in 1928 and left her estate in its entirety to the purpose of fire protection in Reed's Ferry. And you may, if you've been here long enough, recall there used to be a fire water tower at the end of Harris Ave, right up close to where the turnpike goes through now. In the mid-50s, the MVD was formed. They built the water tower on Turkey Hill, and that one came down, and the residue of all of that is what started the Shed Harris Fund for fire protection in Reed's Ferry. And so I guess there's an even call for that if the MVD wanted to do something or the town.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is that there was a discrepancy as to what the purpose of the fund was, and that's,
Well, there's no discrepancy, it's for fire protection.
okay.
But do you determine that to be new fire hydrants or repairs to the fire station? And that's not necessarily up to us to decide.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Eileen, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Chris about this, but we've had a lot of research. Obviously everything he's saying is accurate. We've done a lot of research, and we've also contacted our attorney. It's Tom Boland's gone through all the documents of how things happened and how it transpired, and has come down on the side that it is not money for MVD to access. It is money for the town under the auspices of the town council to make decisions about using it for fire protection in the Reed's Ferry district. Again, the language and the sequence of events that actually occurred made that a little bit muddy, but so it's not solidly in the town column, but it is most assuredly in the town column. So we, at some point you might need to go to court to get that, kind of the I's dotted and the T's crossed. But in the end, the opinion is that it's money for the town to access for those purposes, not MVD. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of the trustees of the trust funds, since they're all here for us tonight? Is there anything that we need to do, or we should be doing, or we should be considering to help out you folks with the trustees? I mean, you've got Tom Bowling helping you, which is probably as big an asset as we can offer, but is there anything else the town council should be considering?
I think we're good. Do either of you want to add anything? Any comments?
Well, I mean, as long as Tom gives you, gets accurate figures from you when you need the money,
so that we can plan. 'Cause, most of our investments are laddered.
Okay. So we can't just go withdraw from the bank tomorrow, kind of thing?
Yeah.
But there's nothing this town council does that's on that kind of a speed, so we will be sure to keep you folks informed.
If Tom has good information, then we can give you good service.
We try every quarter, every 6 months to look at what you or the school district, the MVD is doing, and what your cash needs are going to be. And we either plan maturity dates or cash holdings to keep up with that. We know in most years, someplace between $1.5 million to $2 million is going to be paid to the town to reimburse expenditures they've already made that are being reimbursed out of the capital reserve funds. At the same time, we know every December, we're going to get $1.5 million to $2 million to deposit and hold for those particular capital reserve funds. And the money moves depending upon what town meeting votes and what the warrant article is. You may put more into one capital reserve fund this year and less in another one next year. And that's what the finance department and the town manager present to you for those warrant articles.
Right, absolutely.
You might want to just mention how the permanent funds are invested and what our objectives are when we manage and proceed that.
Okay. On the permanent funds, you'll see we have about $8 million in permanent funds. Those are invested in two separate funds, actually. One is principal, and the other is income. And based on what we're faced with from, number one, the state, but also the bequests, for example, we frequently, I say frequently, once every 25 or 50 years, somebody leaves us some money and says the income from which shall be used for. That means we can't use the principal.
Principal, yep.
Well, principal means if you have capital gains, that stays there's like a line down the middle of the ledger. And the capital gains stay on the principal side of the ledger. We can't spend that. So we invest heavily in dividend paying. Some people call them the dividend aristocrats. Those companies that have a long, long history of paying solid dividends. Those dividends, that's income, that goes into the income fund. And then, because we have more than $50, we have enough that we can spread that around and get some diversification. And we can invest that in both things that grow and produce more dividends, or we just hold it in cash. And that seems to work pretty well, having those two funds. I think we're unique in the state for doing that, but it seems to work for us, and it's working well for those that are the library, for example, or the school district, who are the ones who benefit from those funds.
Great. Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we certainly appreciate you coming and talking to us, filling us in, and we appreciate the data that you presented here. If there's nothing else, thanks very much. We'll see you next year or hear from you all throughout the year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So we have no public hearing for tonight. Legislative updates from state reps. We did get a note from Representative Mooney, and it's here somewhere. Let me find it. She sent two things. You didn't have anything from? Okay. All right. So the representatives got together and issued a proclamation celebrating the 275th anniversary of Merrimack, signed by all seven, because Bill wasn't a rep yet. And I'll read it here. Proclamation celebrating the 275th anniversary of Merrimack, New Hampshire. Whereas during the 1600s, the Pennacook tribe occupied the Merrimack River Valley, and whereas in 1655, the first European colonists settled the area, whereas Merrimack was originally part of the 1673 Dunstable Grant, and Massachusetts granted the town organization as Natticook, which was made up of Litchfield and part of Merrimack, whereas the boundary line dispute between Massachusetts and New Hampshire was settled, adding additional lands to New Hampshire in 1741, and whereas King George II granted the town's first charter to Governor Benning Wentworth on April 2nd of 1746, which incorporated the town of Merrimack and included the land from Pennachuck Brook to the Sahegan River, whereas 4 villages joined together to make up the town of Merrimack. These are Thornton's Ferry, Reed's Ferry, South Merrimack, and Merrimack Village, formerly known as Sahegan Village. And whereas Merrimack has grown into a large suburban community and the home of such notable citizens as Matthew Thornton, signer of the Declaration of Independence, Navy Admiral Forrest Sherman, who served as Chief of Naval Operations, and Walter Kittredge, a musician during the Civil War. Now therefore be it resolved that the New Hampshire House of Representatives recognizes April 2nd, 2021 and all of 2021 as the 275th anniversary of the town of Merrimack. Proclaimed this 9th day of April 2021 by the New Hampshire House of Representatives Merrimack delegation, and it's signed by all 7 of our then reps. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Maureen also pointed out in her greetings to the town councilors, happy 275th anniversary. And she also pointed out the following bills passed through the full House this month and are headed to the Senate for hearings, date and time to be determined. HB 236, an act creating a statute of limitations on civil actions relative to damage caused by PFOA and PFOS and assorted other things of that nature, because I can't say those words very well. HB 271, an act relative to standards for per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, in drinking water and ambient groundwater, and HB 135, an act requiring parties responsible for pollution of drinking water supply to be financially responsible for certain consequences of that pollution. Those ones passed in the House at their mammoth meeting that they had a while back, well, back on the 9th, I think, or something like that. The following bills did not pass through the full House this month. CACR 9 relating to municipal taxes, HB 111, an act establishing a cause of action against the state to protect individual rights. Do you have a better description of that? That's, okay. I heard a fair amount of that, but, and HB 439, an act relative to the powers of city councils, which didn't affect Merrimack directly, but could if we ever become a city council. And so she signs off, thank you for all you do, respectfully submitted, Representative Maureen Mooney, Republican from Merrimack. That's all I have to go under legislative updates from state reps. And we appreciate Maureen taking the time to at least reach out to us in that fashion. It's always good to hear from them. We do like, this is a time when all of our state reps are invited to come and talk to us or send us notes on what's going on. We do like to keep it focused on Merrimack-specific items, just because that's what we're here for in the council.
Would you like one more?
Sure. Oh, another rep, excuse me.
It's okay. House Bill 98 passed the House and it's on its way to the Senate. And House Bill 98 would move primaries from September to the fourth Tuesday in June.
Okay.
I'm not sure where it stands in the Senate. I know that the governor has taken a position and is not in favor of it. But let's just assume the worst as this body thinks about how we've managed elections, especially where I sit, having gone through 15 weeks of the special election coinciding with town meeting day. Every 2 years, this community would be looking at a town meeting day in April and potentially coming back 10 weeks later and having another primary in June before having another election in November. So depending on what happens, I would ask the council to consider the stress that may put on And it's not that we can't run the election, so let me be upfront. We've done an amazing job running elections. But I think it's a lot to ask volunteers, who we ask to come and administer elections, to come in April, spend, go from 6 o'clock in the morning to 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then almost 10 weeks later, they're coming back and not only doing the Republican Party, but they're also doing the Democratic Party as well. So I think that piece of legislation really, I would hope you folks would keep it on your radar over the next couple of months. So, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm really not enthralled with it because of the fact that it puts a tremendous, the cities not so much, but obviously the smaller towns and towns like us, Londonderry, Bedford, I think that, it taxes, it becomes taxing on the people that we ask on helping us administer these elections because of that close proximity between each other. So, anyhow.
So, not trying to take sides, but to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
The September to November timeframe is a similar kind of short break. And I think that's what they're trying to address, is it appropriate to spend a lot of time in a primary battle and then only have 8 weeks before the general election for people to understand and who the different characters and players are.
And the argument in favor of moving it to June is to have a shorter primary to allow for a longer general election. So,
Right.
So
there's always multiple sides to every question.
Exactly. I mean, not to be crass. It depends on how people choose to look at it. So I just wanted to bring it up. So
thank you for the input, because that would affect us.
Well, huge.
Obviously.
I mean, concerning what this community went through just last week.
Well, and just this last week was a completely different kind of situation than we normally have between a town meeting that usually maxes out at 3,000 voters to almost getting 5,000 voters and having a huge amount of money spent on the campaign.
There was some important vote going on.
Yeah, something was happening there. So I agree, but thank you, Representative Boyd.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tom?
Yes.
Before we move on, and first of all, I apologize, because I should have spoken to you about this beforehand. I just don't know where to put this.
Okay.
House Bill 737 having to do with a statutory commission on PFAS. There's a couple of things I just want the council to be aware of.
Sure.
I'm not sure if now's a good time or later.
It's as good as any.
Okay. Put my glasses on. As you know, some Merrimack residents have previously, it's two different things. Let me start again. Some Merrimack residents have been sent letters asking permission to access their private wells for testing for PFAS. There's quite a few that have not responded to that request. I recommended to the commission, and actually DES, that perhaps the town could assist with that if a letter was sent from the town encouraging them to do that. I know I've mentioned this before to the council, asking if I could volunteer, so I did. I've received a draft letter which I distributed to all of you, and I believe the sense I got, it was written by DES. They wanted us to review it to see if there's any changes. I didn't notice any changes, nor did I receive any information from any of you. I thought it was fine to be able to send out just to encourage them to provide access so that their wells could. We do not have the names and addresses yet, but they're supposed to be forthcoming unless you've received them. Eileen?
We've received a partial list,
Okay.
so just today, right, Kyle? There were 7 names only.
Okay.
So
There's more than that there's more than that coming.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you. So just to I guess we just need to let the town give permission for them to use that letter that was sent out. Do we have to have a motion or just agree to it?
I think we'll just agree to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, you may remember that way back in the beginning, there were blood samples taken of 217 residents. Blood samples collected, randomly selected participants as part of the Merrimack Village District Community Exposure Assessment, okay? Now, the commission has been requesting that those blood samples be retained so that in the future, if there are some things that we want tested, that we would have a baseline of samples. legally, we have just found out they have to send out re-consent letters, because the first sample was, and the consent letter they signed, was based upon this one measurement, and there was an expiration date, that the samples would only be held for a certain time, okay? So, what we're suggesting is that and so it's come back that they are going to be sending out letters. I would like to propose that the council encourage that reconsent. Okay, so I'd like to be able to, one, make it publicly known that anyone who participated in that blood sampling, you're gonna be receiving a letter requesting that you give consent for your blood samples to be held to the future, okay? Again, we don't have anything specifically, but again, we have a sample, and there are some possibilities of the future for further research. So we would encourage that. I would also like to put it on the website, and I would like to make it an issue on the cable, just to be able to have a notification, if that is
I am
okay with the council.
Absolutely.
Or any other recommendations, actually, either. But just to let you know that, and again, I'd like the council to be active in encouraging participation in that.
And to amplify Council Harrington's comments, the way that this all came about was because there were people in the community that were really concerned about wanting to know that whether or not they were impacted and to what extent.
Right.
We got a baseline, and I think the only thing that we're going to be able to stay ahead of the curve on this particular issue is still being able to, asking these people to still give us their consent so that we, future testing is critical. I mean, we don't know what public health is going to be as it relates to, and we're moving on from PFAS. We're now talking proprietary compounds. We're talking Gen X. So we have, there could be a,
Precursors, yeah.
thank you, a precursor of other chemicals that would be invaluable in being able to use these samples to test further for that, to further amplify the public health piece. So I agree with you, Councilor Harrington. We should
And there is
pursue it.
limitation, Nancy, maybe you remember, but it can only be held for a certain amount of time beyond that.
Yes, DHHS agreed to hold the samples for 5 years. It's a 5-year hold period.
And it was started from the date of the letter,
February, yes, starting from February 2021, so.
not from when they actually
Exactly.
took the test,
Right,
which
so the
helped.
reconsent letters will be for a 5-year period of time, and the determination of testing will be unknown, because we're trying to keep it open so that should further testing be available, that will provide information that the
Right.
samples will be available. So,
Right.
yeah, thank you, Nancy. I think
And
that's a great
Nancy
point.
is on, and we'll talk about this when we talk about assignments. Because there are 2 reps
Okay.
right now on it. I mean, 1 rep, and Nancy was the community rep, so we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Thank you very much for allowing me to do that.
Barbara?
Yeah, I have clarification on that bill that you were asking about.
Okay.
House Bill 111, per Councilor, Representative Healy. It was to maintain qualified immunity for state and local police. Let me read that back. Qualified immunity for police and all state employees. That was
Okay.
Bill HB 111.
Yeah, I didn't think I could word that correctly, and so I didn't want to try. But in talking with some of the police officers that were there at the election, that seemed to be a very hot-button issue for them, that they and other state employees need to have some feeling that the state's got their back. And to just remove that and have them kind of hanging out there would make the feeling of their job be a lot more risky.
And are you
not-
saying that did pass?
No, it did not pass.
Ah.
I think that's what I read.
So the bill was to maintain?
To take away, no, the
Oh, to
bill
take
was
away,
to take
okay.
away
Perfect,
qualified
okay.
immunity.
I was thinking the opposite. Thank you.
No, yes. Okay, I think that covers us under legislative updates. Thank you for that, and thank you to
Thank you for allowing me.
Representative Healy for his inputs. Town managers report.
Okay, my report is actually one item, and that is to kind of talk about a little bit more about what Nancy was just talking about, and that the reason why New Hampshire DES has initiated these new well testing is because they determined that they had deficiencies in their required PFAS testing for residences within 500 feet of a contaminated well. And as I just was reading to Nancy to let her know, so far we've received, there have been 7 that have been detected. But-
Actually, Eileen, I think that's 2 different issues.
Oh.
What I was talking about is wells that were already, the area was already identified. They had sent out access letters, and they just hadn't responded. The one you're talking about is the most recent decision,
Oh, okay,
okay?
all right.
Is the most recent decision that they extended, they misinterpret. Give them the benefit of the doubt. They neglected to identify those wells within certain feet of previously determined high-level
I
wells.
see, okay.
That's what you're talking about.
All right,
Mine are already determined areas that they just want to be able to get in and test,
okay,
already predetermined to be contaminated areas.
okay. Sorry for
that's why I'm-
confusing,
no, no, no,
making
that's-
it more
It's,
confusing.
it's good that it was clarified.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm surprised, because they did not have the names and addresses available. And I think there's a couple of hundred. That's why when you said 7, I went,
oh, I see, okay, all right, now that makes sense.
okay.
Yeah, the
So
7
you're talking about the
The
newly
new ones,
Newly
identified.
yes. The
contaminated
gift that
wells.
keeps on giving, huh?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And they're outside that outer margin, right?
Mhm. Yes.
The
They can't,
consent decree?
yeah, they can't go outside the outer margin.
Well, they can't get treatment for the outside margin. They can get testing.
They can test it, but St. Gobain doesn't have to pay for it.
Right.
So, on that note, I just wanted to let you know, this is kind of a, hot off the presses kind of deal, and it hasn't been resolved. But, again, St. Gobain, our community partner, has gotten all of their permits for installing the regenerative thermal oxidizer, the RTO, on their plant, the pollution control device. This week, there was a conference call with our building inspector, department, fire department, code, et cetera, in Sarita. And they very arrogantly requested a waiver from fire protection and wanted to install the RTO without all the fire protection that was needed. Needless to say, that's not going to happen. And the other thing is, or it will be done in a different way where it's not done on the roof, it will be done, on the ground with proper protection. It really relates to having a outside staircase where our fire employees would be safe. And again, to the attitude from what I was told is although they do not want to include lawyers, they're not opposed to going to court to demand that we give them a waiver, which, again, as I said, the town has no intention of putting our fire employees or the townspeople in harm's way because St. Gobain can't get their act together and get the job done 5 years after this has been identified. Thank you.
That was well said, thank you.
Eileen, wasn't it also mentioned that that would be a reason why they couldn't get the RTO operational? And the due date, it's due in July, right? And wasn't there a comment made about, well, if we can't get the variance, then we're not going to be able to guarantee, and basically it will be your fault.
Right, but again, that's not true because they've already received their permit and it has requirements, and if they can't meet their requirements, it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with us.
Right.
But that was what their claim was.
Their claiming is, if we don't give it to them, then that's rationale about why they cannot complete
Right,
the RTO operational by the date.
right, which you can understand, a multi-billion-dollar
Yeah.
company, an international company can't get a set of stairwell put up.
Well, they
It's
couldn't
per-
get the permit requested in time.
No. I know.
It's consistent.
Boo-hoo.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the town manager's report? You're gonna get off easy. Consent agenda, we don't have one for tonight, which brings us to old business. The first item is Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, BRIC Funds Application Discussion, tabled from the March 25th Town Council meeting, submitted by Public Works Director Kyle Fox. The Town Council to consider a request to expend up to $60,000 from the Highway Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund to support a FEMA benefit cost analysis submittal with respect to the replacement of the US 3 bridge over Babusick Brook. Welcome back, Kyle.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Congratulations on your achievement award there.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks.
And congratulations, Councilor Murphy. Welcome to the team. So thank you for the introduction, Councilor Koenig. I'm going to run through the mostly similar presentation to the one I showed you a month ago, a couple minor changes. But I wanted to start out by saying I kind of buried the lead last time, and I'm going to provide more clarity to you guys this time on the reason for the request and why I think it would be a benefit. So I'll run through this fairly quickly because most of you have seen it recently.
Yep.
So what we're talking about is the US 3 over Babusick Brook Bridge. That's the bridge near Pinenberg's and the MYA building on Daniel Webster Highway. For some reason this isn't going.
And just for clarity, US 3 is often referred to as DW Highway.
Correct, yeah. Sorry.
Getting old there, Kyle.
I know, it's terrible.
Joining the crowd.
There, that should do better. There it goes. All right, so we added this project into the State Bridge Aid Program way back in 2013 as part of a solution to improve pedestrian access through the corridor. Anyone who's walked through that area knows it's a very small shoulder. The guardrail's in pretty lousy shape, and there's just not a lot of room for pedestrians to or bicyclists to navigate that area safely while competing with 16,000 cars at the same time. The estimated cost back in 2013, it was based on the size of the current bridge and based on just a standard square foot, price per square foot cost basis. And that original estimate was $2.52 million. Couple years later, as DOT inspected the bridge in their biennium inspections, they noticed that it had deteriorated a little more from where it was, and was actually included in the municipal red list bridge list of bridges. Sorry. And it remains on the red list. And really the only difference that means for us at this point is that it gets inspected by DOT every year instead of every other year. Structurally, the bridge is okay. There's no threat of downposting currently. But if we don't take care of it, in due time, that would be the next step, would be a downposting, which of course would be a terrible concern on Daniel Webster. So currently, the project is in the 10-year plan for construction in 2024-25 fiscal year at a budget of $3.6 million. As we're going through the process, the first step is always to do a feasibility study. And that's where you do some preliminary engineering, do the initial survey, and start to come up with your concepts and ideas for what the bridge might look like. Then you go through a public hearing process, which we did last summer, and heard quite a lot of good comments, which we incorporated into the feasibility study. And what it ultimately results in is a preferred alternative that we presented to DOT back in October of 2020. The estimated cost of the preferred alternative, which is about a 90 to 100 foot steel beam bridge with a 2-lane temporary bridge to accommodate traffic during construction, is about $5.7 million. And as you saw in the previous slide, DOT doesn't have that money programmed into the 10-year plan for our bridge. So right now, we're prevented on moving into final design on the project. We're kind of stuck, and DOT won't let us move forward from there. So our consultant actually put us onto this idea. He had worked with another community that worked through the BRIC program, which is the Fema Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant program, as a possible source of funding. And so as we looked into it, it started to make some sense for our project. And what it is, it's basically, so the State Bridge Aid Program, which we're all familiar with, is funded out of strictly state funds, and it's an 80-20 program. Sometimes, like the Bedford Road Bridge, there'll be some federal funds thrown in, but it remains an 80-20, and those would be US DOT funds or federal highway funds, but it's still all managed through DOT, so the program stays the same for us. In this case, it's a grant through FEMA, so a completely different agency, and this grant program is 75-25. And I'll get into where that matters coming up soon in the presentation. So our consultant, Dawn, and I met with New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management back in March to talk about the project. And they were actually pretty excited about the project and let us know pretty quickly that it did qualify for the BRIC program, which is, of course, the first step. The next step, of course, is to start the process of applying. And one of the questions that was asked at the last meeting is how much is in this program? And it's actually the program, it's a biennium program. The previous one, which was done in 2020, last year, is a $500 million nationwide program. So there's a lot of money in this program. And some New Hampshire communities have been successful getting these BRIC awards. So there's some hope there. The biggest factor in moving the project along in this grant program is the benefit cost analysis. And the next couple slides, I'll explain how that's determined. So basically what our consultant would do is take a look at the FEMA flood maps. Many of you who have been in the planning process are familiar with these. They're put out by FEMA. They're called the flood insurance rate maps. And they show the predicted 50-year, 100-year, 500-year storms. So for our case, we're looking at the 100-year storms. And what they'll do is they'll look at the corridor and all of the infrastructure, whether public or private. There may be houses in this area that are affected in those 100-year storms. And just a couple maps here showing different areas. This one is probably the most interesting. This is the Everett Turnpike, and the bluish area is the 100-year storm. It shows quite a bit of it is underwater, which is a big deal, and would certainly factor in our cost-benefit ratio. One of the big factors in that analysis is detour length. And of course, if the turnpike is underwater, imagine the detour for people.
There's no detours, yeah.
Right. You're talking going over to 93, which is a gigantic detour for, I don't know how many vehicles they have, a lot.
A lot. In non-COVID times.
And here's where the real bonus for our project is the line right up here is where the current 100-year flood is. So at the US 3 bridge, you can see the predicted 100-year flood overtops the US 3 bridge. It also overtops the McGaw Bridge Road Bridge, and as we saw in the previous slide, the Everett Turnpike Bridge. It would also overtop the Bedford Road Bridge that we just built, as not shown on this slide, but it was designed intentionally for that. Replacing this bridge would take care of all of that. Just stepping back for a moment, the McGaw Bridge and the Bedford Road Bridge were designed intentionally below that 100-year current flood stage because we knew we were going to replace this bridge, and DOT gave us a waiver to lower the profile of those bridges to save money. So we didn't have to build them ridiculously high for a few years. We wouldn't need it anymore. So once we do the construction of the new bridge, this blue line is the new 100-year elevation. So you can see it's below the Turnpike Bridge, below McGaw Bridge, and obviously below our US 3 bridge. And so these are the reasons we're going to score, I think, really well in that benefit cost analysis. So the proposal is to hire our normal bridge construction, our normal bridge consultant, Quantum Construction Consultants, which is a mouthful, to help us develop that benefit cost analysis. And the tentative timeline for the program would be, we expect the next notice of funding opportunity to be in August of this year, with applications due in November. And then a final submission to Fema through HSEM in January of '22. And that actually fits in nicely with our 10-year plan schedule, which is fiscal '24-25. So here's where I want to talk about kind of burying the headline last time. So we talked about the comparison of this BRIC program versus the State Bridge Aid program, and one's 75-25, the other's 80-20. And what the council asked me to look into was what possible grants and federal funding might be coming our way. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you guys on that. As much as Washington talks about an infrastructure bill, it seems like every year Washington talks about an infrastructure bill, and it never happens. So I don't have any news on that, but here's the buried headline. Regardless of whether more funding comes in from federal highway or not, we're going to pay 20% of the full cost of the project. By utilizing the BRIC funds, if we're successful, and again, there is a risk, but if we are successful, we're only paying 20% of the 25%, which is about an $800,000 savings. So that's the headline I kind of buried last time. We got kind of worked up in between comparing the two programs rather than really focusing on the benefit of the one program. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up for everybody.
Could you repeat just what you said, we're paying 25% of the 20%?
Yep, so let me walk you through this, Councilor Harrington. So up top, this is our normal program. Whether it's straight DOT funds, which comes from the gas tax, or it's from federal funds in their MOBAR program. Yes, it's always 80% state, federal, and 20% town match. So this is what our cost would be if the project goes as normal. And bearing in mind that right now we don't have funding for it. So the state is only committed to $3.6 million. So we're I don't know.
Well, it's
right.
on hold indefinitely,
right.
is what it's saying.
Unless Concord comes through with money, yeah, we're on hold.
We'd have to speak to our state rep.
So down here is kind of how it would go if we got the BRIC program. So the total project cost for both, 9 million, or basically 6 million in both cases. Going through the BRIC program, we're escalating the cost 20%, because anytime you go through, oops, oh, sorry, clicked on it too quick. So, right. So we escalated it 20%, because anytime you go into federal money, costs go up. You have to go through the NEPA process, all sorts of extra work, and of course, Buy American and the Davis-Bacon wage rules, and so it just costs more. So that we escalated the project cost to over 7 million. Now with the BRIC program picking up 75%, that leaves 25% local match. But that local match is now state and town. And the state would still pick up 80% of that 25%. So our town match would be 358,000, roughly.
As it went for the state as well, because the amount that
It
they would
is.
be paying would be considerably less than the
Correct.
3 point something that's programmed in right now.
Right, so instead of 3.6 million that they've committed, they would free up 1.2 million of that, or 2.2 million. So it's a benefit to them as well. And congratulations, Eileen. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Barbara?
Yeah, a couple of questions, if you would.
Sure, please.
The quote that's up there, the 5,969,000, that's from 2013?
That is an updated estimate from our feasibility study
Okay,
from last October.
okay. I just wanted to make sure, because the way prices have been escalating, as we
Right.
know, with other work, I just wanted to make sure we didn't need to even add, more on there from an expected cost with the,
Yeah, and you're spot on. And so this is the pricing, the current 10-year plan. And DOT is required by the legislature to fiscally constrain the 10-year plan.
okay,
And they do that, and they have inflation built into each year. So each year of the 10-year plan, the price will go up, but that's in today's dollars.
okay. And you mentioned that if the BRIC comes through, that there is funding that New Hampshire DOT has to provide as well. But we know that's not going to happen.
No,
So
we-
where do they get the money?
So it would be out of the State Bridge Aid Program.
Okay,
And we've already talked with them. The folks in the community planning group at DOT that work with the municipalities on these various TAP programs, bridge programs, they're trying to figure out a way to help us. And they're just as stuck as we are, because there is just no money. They were excited at the prospect of us going for this grant and hopefully getting it, because it would benefit their program, because that excess money from the 3.6 million that they're not spending here, they could put into other projects.
and just so everybody understands, it's on the red list, gets inspected every year, and if in fact it deteriorates more than,
So a couple
at
things.
some point it may be closed.
So a couple things could happen. One, it could get downposted. Many of you will recall the saga we went through with Bean Road. It was downposted to 10 ton, then it was closed. Fortunately, we had the project well under design, and we were able to get it under construction pretty quickly. The other option, and more likely what would happen in this case, because it's such an important corridor, is we would just have to put money into limping it along, but you never recover that money. It's kind of wasted money. So we're hoping to get the replacement done before that happens. Sure.
Lon?
Yeah, I may be ahead of the discussion. If we go ahead and okay going for the BRIC program. Are we putting the 60 grand at risk in terms of if we don't get the grant, we've lost, or we've spent the 60 grand on a gamble?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Do you have something, Finley, or no?
No, I didn't, but I can. I appreciate that, bringing that up, but I think it's a worthwhile risk, because I agree with the graph where you showed the overtopping of those multiple, crossways. And so to me, I have a good sense about it. Whatever my senses were, I think it's something that is a reasonable risk that I'm willing to take.
Eileen?
I also am very supportive of this. I wanted to hold off for a little while, and a little while has occurred. But obviously, with these numbers, this is very good and really clear, Kyle. I'm glad that you did this. And basically, what it shows is that, as Barbara had pointed out, that DOT, us getting $4.7 million from DOT anytime in the near future is not all that likely, whereas they could, we could very easily get $1.4 million from them if we were able to do that. And this is just too important a project to not move forward with any kind of options that we might have, and it's particularly one that has a chance of passing. So I am definitely in favor of this. Thank you.
And I should add, thank you, Eileen. Just for your knowledge, you guys probably know this already, but the state bridge aid program is only funded at $6 million a year currently. So when you're looking for 4.8 on one bridge, when they have hundreds throughout the state that are in need, the program just isn't solvent right now.
Right.
As we know from our pedestrian bridge, where we can't even get it onto the 10-year plan because they're not accepting new projects into the bridge aid program for the near future.
So Kyle, this does seem very beneficial to not only us, but also to the state. Is there a chance the state could weigh in on our behalf to help out our application?
We would certainly ask them to.
Okay.
The good news is, the New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management folks are state folks, and they were very supportive of us already. And what level of commitment DOT would show, I can't say, but I know they'd be supportive of it.
Okay, great. We had talked about this a month ago, and we asked
Yeah.
you to look into whether there were other opportunities on the horizon based on a lot of the noise you hear in the news. Obviously, nothing has come forward yet,
Right.
and there's a lot of discussion still going on about any federal infrastructure bills or any of that kind of stuff that might help out. So that's always there for potential future. But I think that we've got like nothing to lose. 60,000, while it's not short change, it would be well invested to take this opportunity to assist both the town and the state to be able to move forward on a bridge that's very important to us. And so I would certainly back our moving forward. Eileen, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I also would like to say that there are many other projects within the town that we could look to, any potential infrastructure, the one that's coming up regarding the wastewater treatment plant, for instance. There are plenty of opportunities for us to use some of that money for, as you said, for other projects. So it's not like we would forego $60,000 and not get anything else. So I think that's a good point that you made.
Okay. Nancy?
I totally agree with everything that's been said. I think the clarification has tipped the scale that we feel comfortable understanding the ramifications of taking a calculated risk, as you said, Lon, but a reasonable calculated risk. And the reality is the bridge has to be taken care of. And we have to be able to go with a direction that's available. And this is a direction that we have to go somewhere. So based on that, I'd like to make a motion.
Oh.
To approve the expenditure of up to $60,000 from the Highway Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund to support a FEMA benefit cost analysis submittal with respect to the replacement of U.S. Bridge over Babusick Brook.
Seconded.
Moved by Nancy and seconded by Bill to authorize the expenditure of $60,000. Does anybody have any other comments on that? DW Highway.
U.S. 3 Bridge over Babusick.
Brook.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, if there are no other comments, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you for
Kyle.
the clarification, Kyle.
Appreciate you coming back to help us understand.
My pleasure.
Our, brings us to the second item under old business, the wastewater treatment facility, Phase 3 bond update, continuation of our discussion from last meeting, I believe it was. Submitted by Deputy Public Works Director and Wastewater, Sarita Croce. Sarita, you're back again.
I'm back again.
Always good to see you. Thanks for your help and assistance.
Thank you very much, Chairman Koenig and Vice Chair Rothaus and members of the Town Council. I got it right finally, a little bit. Let me put this up. So my presentation is not as exciting, I have to say. I wish it was.
You do very well for wastewater site.
Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. Eileen helped me prepare this. We spent a lot of time on this one, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. So tonight, it's a continuation of what we discussed last time. And what I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to go a little bit over past history from 2018, 2019, just to give the public and all of you a reminder of why we want to do this project. Then I'd like to take some time, as I promised, to review the bid, the specifics of the calculations, and provide you with 2 options and a recommended path forward, and of course, questions and discussions at any time. If you take a look here, what you're seeing is those wonderful pictures that we showed back first in 2018 when I came to you and asked for approval to proceed with this project. What you see in the upper left-hand corner is the main pump station, and then in the middle here you see Thornton's Ferry. I don't think you can see my arrow, sorry. Thornton's Ferry in Sohegan, and if you take a very close look at the picture in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that we've got hoses being held together with duct tape. And Sohegan and Thornton's Ferry have similar things going on with them. On the lower left-hand corner, you'll see emergency generators. They're actually 50 years old, and on May 15th, they'll be 51 years old. We can't find spare parts for them anymore. We actually had batteries go bad on these generators, and we searched to try and find batteries because they didn't make them anymore. If you look at the top right-hand corner, you'll see the sludge holding tanks. And if you remember, I said that was a project that was near and dear to my heart because our staff goes in several times a year to actually shovel sludge and those wonderful flushable wipes out of the sludge storage tanks. So we'd like to lower the height of those tanks so that we can use our new vacuum truck to take care of it. The clarifier mechanisms, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times that it separates solids from liquid, and if you can't separate the solids from the liquid, there really isn't much of a point to wastewater. And then finally, you look down in the lower right-hand corner, and you'll see some very, very old piping that is original to the facility that we desperately need to upgrade as well. On this page, some more scope of the project. In the top left-hand corner, you see this chlorine building. You'll see the electrical room that's original to the facility. You'll see sludge pumps there. We've got a wash water system. On the bottom, the new screenings facility was proposed to handle the flushable wipes. And if everybody remembers, we did this wonderful demonstration where we put toilet paper and a flushable wipe in jars. We shook them. And I believe the flushable wipe is still intact, right? 100%. The flushable wipe is still intact. It has not degraded. And then on the right-hand side, you see compost, and we have sawdust shed. The compost and the sawdust shed, it's a carryover from the phase 2 that we did not complete. One thing I want to note here is that the sawdust shed was not included in this bid, and we're actually going to bid on the sawdust shed tomorrow. And we'll be accepting bids on May 26th. The town graciously approved $22.62 million via 2 votes. One was in 2019, one was in 2020. 13.1 in 2019, 9.52 million in 2020. So now here's the most exciting. I know everybody's waiting for this. Here's the result. We only had one bidder, and it was quite a surprise that we only had one bidder respond to our project. If you take a look at the extreme right-hand column, it says final design estimate value. So as part of the final design, Wright Pierce, which is our consultant, put together an estimate of what they thought the project was going to cost. If you look at the top, it's called the base bid. So this was the base portion of the bid that this is the stuff we absolutely needed to do. And if you look at Wright Pierce estimate, it's $16.7 million or $16.8 million. Methuen's cost for the base bid was $22.68 million. If you look at the bid alternates, which was the sludge holding tank coatings, so that was just to coat the inside to protect it against hydrogen sulfide gas attack. Headworks building modifications, that was the administrative portion of the Headworks building, including a new lab, which we absolutely need. And then algae sweeps for the secondary clarifiers, and that was so that our operators didn't have to take a big broom to scrub actually the clarifiers to remove algae. So if you take into account the bid alternates, the total bid price by Methuen was $24,604,753 versus the estimate from the final design, which was $18,487,100. Now, one of the things I pointed out last time when we spoke was that $22.62 million that was approved wasn't just for construction. There were a lot of other things that were placed into that. And what you see there on this slide is the non-construction cost. So the cost to complete the design of the project was $1.552 million. That came on budget. There was no exceedance there. Wright Pierce construction administration cost, which is an inspector, it's engineering support as things go on during a construction project to ensure that we do things right. It also provides for design verification at the end, so they have to stamp all the final drawings, as-built drawings, to tell us that everything was built the way they wanted to be built. That's going to be $2.338 million. Then you have 2 categories, and that's an exact price as well. Then you have 2 categories, New Hampshire DS miscellaneous administration costs, and that's associated with getting the loan from DES, the SRS loan, the state loan, revolving fund loan, SRF loan, sorry, and also construction contingency. Now, the SRF process requires that we maintain a 5% contingency. So if you look in the 2 categories, you see that both the administrative costs and the contingency are different. It's because they're just different factors. If the project price is higher, 5% is higher. If the project price is lower, 5% is lower, and the same thing holds true for the administrative costs. So if you look at the bottom line, Methuen bid, including all the non-construction costs, is $30 million. The design estimate was $23.8 million. So we talked a little bit about this last time, and Eileen and I both thought it would be a good idea to place this information in a slide, that this is not something that was a complete surprise from the perspective of what's been happening in the industry. The Methuen bid price, and that's the $24.6 million, was $6.1 million over budget. If you look at the projects on this slide, these were all example bids from 2020, Orange, Massachusetts, Peabody, Mass, Orleans, Mass. You'll see that versus the engineering estimate, Orange was, the low bidder was 50% over the engineering estimate. For Peabody, it was 19%. The low bidder was 19% over the engineering estimate. For Orleans, it was 47% over the engineering estimate. And I think Orleans is a nice example because it's very similar in size to what we're planning to do. Hampton, New Hampshire, it was 20% over the engineering estimate. And then finally, we are 33% over the engineering estimate. Methuen was not awarded any of these projects, just for the record, and they did not submit a bid for either Orange, Massachusetts, or Hampton, New Hampshire. So now to the exciting portion of this presentation is what are we going to do? So I'm going to propose two options. Option one I'm recommending, and that is a scaled back project. Option two I'm not recommending, and that's rebidding this project or rebidding smaller components of the project. And that would be just organizing the project a little bit differently to try and get things done. So option one, if you take a look at this slide, what you'll see is you'll see the numbers as Methuen broke them out for us for the bid. So the main plant, if we include the main pump station, the clarifier, the emergency generators, the sludge holding tanks, and some piping, it is bid value is $13.8 million. Now, if you go down to the Sohegan pump station, that's 1.6. Thornton's Ferry pump station upgrade is 1.6 also, or $1.7 million. What we're proposing is to execute those three components. What we're proposing not executing is the screenings building, the compost facility upgrade, the chlorination building, washwater, and the washwater piping system. So if you remember my pictures, we're proposing to do this. We're proposing to do these things. What we're not proposing to do are the things on this picture. And the sawdust shed, I mean, we're already at our budget limit, so likely that's not going to be on the list either. And then if you take a look at the bid alternates, which of course we are not proposing to do, and you take a look at the non-construction costs, which I've just pulled over from the other slide, you'll see that what we're proposing to do will bring us to a grand total of $22,310,979. And that leaves us with $309,021 remaining in the budget. So and this next slide, oh, sorry. This next slide just is a reminder of what was in the bid alternates, and which we will not be executing. So the good news is that Congress and the President already passed the American Resource Plan Act, and based on the conversation we had 2 weeks ago, Mr. McCalley had indicated that we may get about $2.2 million, or it's estimated we have the potential of receiving $2.2 million as a part of the allocation from that particular, is that a bill? I guess it's a bill, right? From that bill. And then you've already talked with Kyle about the proposed infrastructure bill. If that does go through, they really want shovel-ready projects. It doesn't get more shovel-ready than we are. We're going to have the contractor out there. We have the design complete, and this contractor will be able to execute these projects, you know, if the funding becomes available. As you go towards completion of this project, you have $870,000 that we've estimated to be used as contingency. If we don't use that contingency as we go forward, we can use some of it to execute more of the project. Then there are the administrative fees. Well, if we don't use them, then maybe we can use some of that to execute some of the project. And Methuen has committed to us that once, if they were to receive the award, they would work with the town initially to actually go back and further refine the scope to see if they could find some additional money. And then not an expert in this area, but if there is a decrease in interest rates, that bodes well for our fund because our payments aren't going to be as high and our fund balance will be in better shape. Option 2 is to divide the project into different categories. So the purpose here was to place them in categories where we felt that contractors would be able to bid on the project. The pump stations are a very important component of this project, so we placed them together. Then the remaining plant, again, the emergency generators, very important component of this project. If we lose power and that plant doesn't start up, it will be a bad day for all of us. The clarifiers, the sludge holding tanks, all are included there. The new screenings building we pulled out separately because we felt as that's like new construction, so we could divide that out as a separate project. And then the compost facility, it's just the stuff we want to finish from that we didn't finish last time. So here's, I probably should have said this first, but here's the deal. The plant is getting older. When I first came to you, it was 48 years old. Now it's going to be 51 years old on May 15th of this year. We have a lot of equipment issues. We have pumps failing. I have staff going to the pump stations every day. I have problems and call-ins for those pump stations every day. I've got problems in the main pump station. Duct tape doesn't hold up as well as it used to, I don't think. And the plant is definitely in danger of failing. And one of the things that is really good about this project is nobody is mandating that we do it. We are not under an EPA consent decree. We're not, we haven't had any major sanitary sewer overflows. We haven't had any major problems with violations of our effluent. And despite the fact that I have the most amazing staff that there is, there's only so much that they can do. And there's only so long that we can hold out with the equipment that we have. The bidders that we thought were going to bid this project, they weren't able to bid it, and there were a number of reasons why they weren't able. There was one bidder had indicated he was at his bonding limit. Several bidders had actually indicated that they had staffing issues. So one thing to remember is that the Merrimack wastewater treatment plant is 50 years old. This program started about 50 years ago. All the wastewater treatment plants are 50 years old, so all of them need to be upgraded now. So we're competing with a lot of facilities that need to be upgraded, and there isn't a huge group of managers, project managers able to take on a project of this side, as well as the labor, the skilled labor that we need to execute this project. So they had indicated that they had their staff committed at other facilities, or they were doing projects in other areas, and they weren't willing to come back to Merrimack. There's also no guarantee if we rebid this project that Methuen or any other of these bidders would actually respond to a rebid. Costs will definitely increase if we bid multiple small projects. So we always talk about economy of scale. If we do one big, huge project, we save on the overhead costs because it's one company that's taking care of this whole project, and we save on mobilization and demobilization. Well, we wouldn't be saving those costs. Multiple projects would also potentially require multiple construction inspectors. So as a part of this project, our consultant will provide us with an inspector through Wright Pierce, and each month you have to meet with DES, and you have all of these things that you have to complete as part of the SRF process. Well, if you have 3 or 4 contractors, you have to do it with each and every one of them, so that costs more money. And then it will cost money just to put together the modified plans and specifications to get the bids out the door and to get the new estimates. So what I'd like to respectfully request is permission to move forward on the reduced scope, understanding that I think they said around May 11th we'll know about the money, the funds for the stimulus package. Yeah, I think Paul had said around May 11th, sometime in that time frame, we would know. So we could use some of that funding as well, reallocate some of the unused contingency and miscellaneous fees. And if we're lucky enough to get a infrastructure bill, hopefully use some of that. One thing I want to point out is that stimulus package was, I think, $1.9 trillion. So we are not the only ones receiving money, which tells you also these contractors are going to be busy doing work for other communities. So here's mine. Yes, thank you very much for everything. You're the best. Thank you. I didn't put that in the packet. I will send it to you, though.
You know, as Sarita said, she and I worked on putting this together, and obviously all the facts and things are come from her. But I think the most important thing that she said here tonight is that we really don't have a choice, even though we've given you two options. The options, the only option really is to proceed forward. And what we're doing is what I would refer to in my simplistic vernacular is the meat and potatoes of the project, getting this thing done, and the secondary, the other upgrades in the other buildings, particularly I always forget the name of it, but it's for the wipes.
Oh, the screenings building.
The screenings buildings is of great importance, and we can add those back. And I have hope that there is money going to become available. So normally I would, I'd be stomping my feet over this situation. We looked at it. We saw that other bids were coming in similarly higher than the estimate. And it really must be done before something disastrous happens and we have to, we are ordered to do something and clean up. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. I appreciate it. If we don't get any of the stimulus money, would it be your thought that we would be bonding in another year or two to finish up the project and it's,
Yes.
completely?
Yeah, we would be. Yes,
And then-
definitely. I'm sorry.
And so now it's just kind of a thought. Is this where we went out 2 years in a row strong for the project? It's something we should, in some fashion, make it be known that this is what's going on. We're trying beyond tonight, or is it something we should just bring up next year? I don't know. I don't.
That's a really good question. I don't know a good answer to that
Yeah.
myself right now. Obviously, we've been up front and we've had several meetings to discuss this. We understand the situation and we're trying to explain to the public now where it all lies. And so I don't think we're hiding anything,
No, I don't think so
But-
either.
but I'm not sure if it makes sense to try and go out and do a PR push at this point of any sort. I think we need to do as recommended and do the best we can with what resources we have and realize that there are other opportunities and options that are gonna come up and just go with that flow.
Very good.
Nancy?
I agree, but if it does seem reasonable that in perhaps a year, let's say it's 2 years, that we're going to rebond, that's when we have to start.
Really talking, yeah.
Educating people, not last minute, but by the way, this is what happened. With any luck, we'll get some federal monies that will help us.
Yep.
But, I don't think people would remember if we start doing it now.
No, I don't think so either.
You know,
And
But I
there's no
think your
point-
issue is well taken, and I think we need to remember that when we start seriously thinking about bonding, that's when we have to initiate, you
Yep.
know, highlighting, this is what's happened, this is why we have to do it, you know, check the dates on the meetings, you know, because they're not gonna listen. I mean, it's not, anyway.
If you don't mind me just saying, one other thing we might want to, we're doing a rate study right now, and we have received the draft rate study to look at our rates. We are, or as of 2018, we were the 5th lowest in the state. The city of Nashua actually just increased their rates by 20%. And one of the things that most communities and cities have noticed is that we are, as a complete society, as a nation, not putting enough money aside to deal with infrastructure issues, wastewater being only just one of them. So that might be another thing to look at in terms of perhaps, rather than going for another bond, paying for it out of the fund if we possibly can, because you do save money in terms of interest. I think we calculated at a 30-year loan at 2%, I think it was about $7 million of interest over that life of that loan, so.
Barbara?
Yeah, I think it would be better to wait for a year before we bring it up to speak about possible bonding in the future, only because a lot could happen between now and then. It could, I think people are realizing that costs are going up. I mean, even bread, milk, and toilet paper aren't as cheap as they were a year ago. Look at the price of lumber, that everybody's talking about now. If you have some wood, you've got gold in your garage. But anyways, also, I think it would be good not to take it off the radar either. So I'm thinking maybe to come back and update the council like on a quarterly basis.
Yes.
To let us know how it's going so that it reappears on the agenda on a continuous basis so that people, it just doesn't drop off the radar and magically show up in a year. So, that's my recommendation.
Anybody else? Lon?
Yeah, I find it unfortunate that we're kind of sort of complicating an issue. In my opinion, this needs to go forward like today.
Like yesterday, yeah.
In my opinion, this can wait a while,
Is that the rate study?
the rate study. One of the things that I have the most confidence in is, at least of recent, we've got a really competent cadre of employees, i.e. Mr. Fox, Sarita, Eileen, you're still an employee. It makes it kind of easy being a counselor at times with their competence. I'm in favor of putting this forward today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Is that a motion, Mr. Woods? Counselor Woods?
Did you want to put that in the form of a motion is what she asked.
Is that a motion, Counselor Woods?
Yes, I didn't have the formal language in front of me, but if someone wants to make the formal language, that's fine.
How about, proceed with proposal 1 as presented?
Moved by Councilor Woods to proceed with option 1 as presented by Sarita tonight.
Seconded.
Seconded by Barbara. So, I think we have to definitely move forward as best we can. It sounds like you've carefully looked at what you absolutely need. I know the screening building, the chlorination building and whatnot were important pieces, but maybe they're not as close to falling apart as the pump station and the generators and things of that nature. So, and if Methuen understands the situation and works with us even a little bit, that will help all along the way. So I'm definitely in support of that. Is there any other comments before we call for a vote on supporting option 1? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0. So thank you for your efforts and
Thank
yours,
you. Thank you.
Eileen, to move that forward, and good luck with that. Like Barbara suggested, let us know how it's going. What's your time schedule for this to be going forward?
So now that I've received your approval, we'll award the bid to Methuen. Step 1 is, our plan is to award the entire bid and then issue a change order where we take out the components that we won't be doing. But before we do that, we'll do that detailed evaluation. And what I will commit to is, once that is done and we know exactly what we're doing, I will come back and present to council.
Okay, but is that months?
Oh, it's within a month.
Within a month, okay.
Within a month, I'll be back.
Oh, awesome. And you would expect to see construction start later this year?
Yeah,
or-
later this year. Demob later this year, definitely.
Okay. And it's a one-year kind of a project, or
It's
two? or
a minimum 2-year project.
2 years?
There is a lot of work that needs to
Oh,
be done.
I'm sure there is. I'm
yeah.
just trying to get a feel for, by the time you get that work done, it's likely to be 2 years before we're really going to sit down and strongly suggest whether we need to bond or whatever, or
I'm an
hopefully-
optimist.
Hopefully, funding will show up during
Yes.
that 2 years, and you can just extend.
Yes,
the
that's what I'm
project back
hoping
again.
for. If, to the point of the screenings building, I mean, if we do get 2.2 million and we have the 300,000, that bodes well for a screenings building, and that's a pretty important component of the project in terms of preserving our infrastructure as well.
And we are shovel-ready, so,
And we are shovel-ready. You don't get better than this.
okay. Great, thank you very much.
Thank
So, under new business, item number 1, Public Works Week Proclamation, submitted by the Public Works Director Kyle Fox to Town Council to proclaim May 16th through the 23rd of 2021 as National Public Works Week. You want to talk to this, Kyle, or you want to?
You can go ahead. I'll say a few words after, if you don't mind.
You can read the
Okay. This is something that we receive annually, and Public Works often doesn't get as much obvious recognition as the police and fire and things of that nature. So I think it's always very thoughtful and important for us to help to understand and recognize Public Works. And so we have a proclamation, National Public Works Week Proclamation for May 16th through the 23rd of 2021, with the title or quote of Stronger Together. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Merrimack, New Hampshire. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas Merrimack Public Works employees worked in person throughout the pandemic to maintain the essential services that the citizens of Merrimack rely on, and whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Merrimack, New Hampshire, to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association / Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved, we, the Merrimack Town Council, do hereby designate the week, May 16 to 22 of 2021, as National Public Works Week. We urge all citizens to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set the seal of the town of Merrimack to be affixed on this 22nd day of April 2021, signed by the Merrimack Town Council.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Bill Boyd, seconded by Barbara Healy, to approve the National Public Works Week proclamation. Did you want to comment anything to that?
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Koenig and town councilors, and of course Eileen. Thank you so much for everything. I just wanted to say a couple words. The past year, in particular, for Public Works has been really, really stressful, tiring, challenging, and just overall difficult. And when I say I couldn't be prouder to be the leader of Merrimack Public Works, is an understatement. The crews that we have never missed a day through this pandemic. All of our facilities were open every day. We had one little hiccup a week and a half ago where we closed the transfer station for 3 hours, and that was a big deal. But short of that, we've been there for the citizens of Merrimack, for the businesses of Merrimack. And, you know, it was scary working at the transfer station initially with the public still coming in every day when we didn't know what this virus was. We didn't know if it stuck onto the surfaces. We didn't know how it was transmitted. The 7 folks up there never missed a beat, kept it going. Our highway staff, we've never had a busier year. Paving got started really early last April because there were no cars on the road and the contractor wanted to get going. And we said, come on in. We had a great year with that, finishing up the Bedford Road Bridge project. Contractors never stopped. So we were very busy on the highway side. Of course, wastewater, more scariness, right? Everything is coming to them. And day after day, they worked there, didn't miss a beat. And our buildings and grounds crew, I can't forget them. You know, they did so much work, first of all, to get us open on June 15th. I'm pretty sure we were one of the first towns open in the state for normal business. And really, you know, obviously Eileen and Paul did a great amount of work, but Phil and Jean-Louis were so important in that equation, you know, getting the stuff set up for the staffs. To date, they still, twice a day, disinfecting every surface in this building. Worked a lot of extra hours to do so, keep everyone safe and healthy. So when I say, you know, normally I'm so proud, this past year has just been awesome. And I thank you guys for your support and for supporting us all. This year's Public Works Week is going to look a little different, just like last year's did. Frankly, we're not sure what we're doing yet. I think we're going to push our celebration to later this summer. We're still hoping to have an open house at the Highway Garage, like we've done in the past, and welcome our citizens and businesses in to meet with us and chat with us, see what we do, and have some interactions. So certainly I'll keep you guys up to date with that and look forward to it. And I just say thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And you guys obviously have been on the front line of a lot of things. You don't get the recognition as being frontline people, but obviously you needed to keep working through the whole time. And we appreciate the work that they have done and the fact that they've, you know, gone for masks and gone for self-protection as much as they have and been able to continue to work. So that's been an awesome job. So please pass along our thanks to the whole crew for all the work they've been doing.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments before we take a vote on this proclamation? Lon?
Yeah, it's heartening to listen to Kyle review the past year. I had occasion to do a little work with the Department of Public Works at a time. And one of the things that impressed me the most was there wasn't anything that came up that the person on the dime wasn't willing to jump in and attempt to get done right then. It's just so easy to not appreciate or not sense what's going on 24/7 with the Department of Public Works. Yeah, you don't think of them working at night, and they don't unless there's a reason to, and then it's accomplished. It's just it's a group that the proclamation does well taking care of, and we as the public need to be as appreciative as we can all of the time, because they're there all the time. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other comments, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the proclamation as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0. And we have it here signed if you want the sealed proclamation.
That'd be great, thank you.
Or we can send it via the town manager prior to her exit.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kyle, appreciate it.
Kyle.
Or your proxy. No. Anyway, okay. So next on our agenda is the town council retreat/goal session. Every year for, I don't know, 10 years now? Has it been every year since you've been here? We've had an annual retreat to kind of get together as a new council with all the new members and things to discuss what we think are important issues going on in town, where we want to go with various things and things of that nature. So, and it's so easy for us to forget to schedule this that we put it on today's agenda to at least start thinking about when we could schedule it and where it might be and things like that, and see if people had ideas, because obviously Eileen and Paul have in the past put a lot of energy into pulling together all the background information that we've requested on the subjects. But to do that, they need some time. And so we need to start giving them, or give Paul and Becky and folks the information they need of what we're wanting to talk about. So I guess at this point, we'll just kind of open it up for general discussion on when people would like to try to hold a retreat, and if there's any specific topics you would like to make sure we get included this year that haven't, weren't necessarily covered in last year's or something like that. Nancy?
In terms of the topics, I would suggest, which we've done in the past, is to provide the index of all the topics that were discussed last year. That's a good jumping off point. We can cross out those things that have been completed or aren't relevant anymore, and then add, anyone who wants to add a topic can. And then, of course, after the total number, then it's just prioritizing, because oftentimes we don't get through the whole list. So what are the most important things to be discussed sequentially? When was the last one? Was it May?
Was it August?
Yeah.
Which
It
was
was
later
delayed
than
quite
we
a bit
usually
because of
do it.
COVID, obviously.
Right.
And then we held
Don't
it
we
in
usually
the,
do it like in June?
Yes.
we
Okay.
normally do it in late May or early June.
I'd like to return to that.
Well, yeah, the only reason we didn't this past
Right,
year was
I
because of
understand.
COVID.
So I would propose we go back, have it at the same place.
If we can, yeah.
If we can, because that worked out, and we have the option. We were able to distance ourselves. It was a large room, and I think that worked out well.
If we can get that same room
That's what I'm saying. We'd have to
versus the
check.
little room.
We'd have to check to see
Just
the
to give us the
availability. You're
further
right.
spacing capabilities
Yep.
and stuff like that, but they seemed amenable to that
And
last time.
just to let you know, Nancy, that is open to the public. It's a working session where we try to, we talk some major, actually anything in the town,
Strategic.
all the
Anything
services,
strategic, yeah.
strategic planning, that's
Strategic
exactly
planning.
right. And we have invited, we've had some public on occasion, but not frequently. And there aren't any decisions made, it's just planning. Because we try, I don't think we've ever made a motion or anything, have we?
No, it's not
It's
a,
literally just a
Work
discussion, a work session, just to let you know.
we had it at Buckley's upstairs last time, and we've had it in their little side room by the bar there.
We try to keep
in the
it
past,
local.
but that's a smaller area. But we're trying to keep it in Merrimack, and they've been very supportive of us, so it's worked out really well. But generally, yeah, just focusing on any issue that you think is critical or important to the town that we might need to address in the upcoming 12 months or so. or future, further. I mean, we've talked about DW Highway, we've talked about sewer, we've talked about bridges, we've talked about all kinds of things. From employees to infrastructure to buildings to whatever.
To policies,
To policies and to fences at Watson Park.
yeah.
Pardon? One of my absolute favorites, yeah. Not, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to be clear.
But again, we don't make decisions there, but oftentimes it sets the stage to when we come here and we make decisions, just to
Yeah,
give you an update.
Just to get an idea and kind of put together a tickle list of things that hopefully our town manager and staff can help us to remember that we want to talk about.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. Late May, early June would be a good time frame to work on. We'll have Becky check into that if that's okay. I don't-
Now, the day of the
Don't
week,
mean to
we
correct you.
usually had to,
Pardon?
Monday
we
or
also
Friday.
talked about days of the week. It was a Monday or Friday
Yeah, Monday
usually.
or Friday is what we've done historically.
Yeah.
So would we direct them to consider?
Mm.
I'm just think the group should decide, is Monday, Friday still good? It is with me.
These retired people that bug the heck out of me. Anyway,
And Eileen's not gonna be around, but even though she's gonna be retired, and it is wonderful, Eileen. You're gonna find that out very soon.
I keep hearing that from my older sister.
You think you're busy now.
True.
Yeah.
It's different kind of busy, that's all.
Yeah, Friday works fine for me.
Councilman.
Nancy Murphy.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, a lot of Fridays are.
Can you turn your mic
conflicts
on?
with-
Just
There are a lot of conflicts on Fridays with commissions.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know both of them that I'm on are on Fridays. So Monday's an easier day.
Monday works for me too. I mean,
Works.
because I'm still working from home, whether I like it or not.
Monday's okay with me.
I'm fairly flexible, but
But no, Mondays work for me. Yep.
Mondays work. Is anybody that has a particular problem with a Monday or? Okay, so Mondays and if that doesn't work, Friday, but try and get some dates that are available. Late May, early June, just to give Paul and Becky a chance to pull some of the stuff together. And we'll get the indexes sent out from past ones if you don't have your book still. I'm sure Nancy doesn't have the book, but just so that everybody has
Topic.
Mhm.
a topic list in front of them from what we've talked about in the past. And yeah, we'll scratch off and add to and please, if you have new items to put on there, send them in sooner than better, sooner than later.
Can we set a deadline?
Sure.
Because if we leave it open, you're not gonna get, let's set a date to be able to have a response.
Before we lose our town manager? Or is that too early? Well, we probably need to have a pretty good idea by the end of the month what we're planning to talk about, which is a week and a half.
Yeah, if the list can be sent out this week, yeah. It should be easy to do.
Yeah, it should be easy to send the list out. I have the books in my home, so I can at least get those. And then we need to make a decision by like the 8th or maybe the latest the 14th or something of exactly what we're gonna cover and.
Okay, so you wanna say we have to have anything done by May 7th? Any suggestions made by May 7th? So that gives it a final date, that they can be working on the books. I know that that's been a problem in the past.
Right.
Yeah,
There's
that's
so
a lot
much
of work
effort.
to put that together.
Okay, so May 7th
May 7th.
is a due date for any changes.
Are we,
Send them to me and Paul and Becky.
Yeah.
are we gonna try and get Rick, was it Alpers?
The Primex, right?
Primex,
Yeah.
if
Because
You
I
know,
found that,
I don't know that it was necessarily advantageous to have them.
we did
because-
well last time
Yeah,
without
'cause-
him, I think.
yeah,
but-
'cause we
But
knew-
he does tend to try and push us and we get to
right, 'cause we
focus
tend
more.
to, I know us,
Yeah.
I know me.
Well, it doesn't cost us
Well, it's up-
anything, right?
And I was gonna
Right,
say,
it's
I
up
think
to
it's
you.
free.
It's up
I
to
mean,
you.
if
We-
people don't think it's necessary, I thought we're better corralled
I do too.
and held together in some fashion.
They still might not be doing it, though.
They
Who
might
knows?
not be.
They might not. They,
And it's whatever.
They're
because of
not, I
COVID,
don't
they
think
were-
they're back to work yet.
what?
I don't think they're back in the office yet.
And if they're not, and they're uncomfortable with coming out, I
Mhm.
mean,
Then that's
That
it.
answers the question.
There's our decision.
then that
Well,
takes
fine.
care of that, but we ought to check and
We'll
see.
check with it.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I hope, are starting to open up. I mean, like, my office is open every other day for me to go in, but because our cubes are shorter and smaller, they don't allow everybody in every other office, you know, so only every other office can come in. So my days are odd days. And then the other days I have to work from home anyway, so, whatever.
If I worked
Um,
from home, I'd wait 3
Okay,
She had a question.
Eileen?
This is unrelated to that,
Oh,
but I'm not sure when the appropriate time to update you on something I just told you about St. Cobain. Can I do that now? Do you mind?
yeah, you can do it now.
Okay, I'm sorry, because I don't want, Bill wants to do his thing, and I don't want to put any cold water on his speech, but, I just got this from Chief Duke, attached a scan of a letter that we received from McLean Middleton representing St. Cobain. It appears that they are appealing to the Merrimack Zoning Board to separate the construction and operation of the RTO from the requirement to install fire suppression system and exterior stairwell. So
They're
not
appealing to the zoning board?
apparently that's, I just barely got it, so I don't
Yeah.
know how the zoning board would determine what safety requirements are required, but I'm just telling you that I just received this. So my only point really is that I said that St. Cobain was indicating that they wanted an answer immediately, because we got to follow their timeline. And if not, that they were going to proceed in some legal fashion. And this is the method that they choose. They didn't waste any time to do so. And I'd just like to repeat once again, we, the town of Merrimack, will not put our employees in harm's way to meet St. Cobain's schedule. We will not. So they can take us to court or whatever they want, but it will not happen.
Okay, thank you. All right. So that brings us to, did you want to say something to that? I'm sorry, Barbara.
I just wanted to make sure I understood what that statement
Okay.
was. And so, for those of you who don't know what an RTO is, it is, for all intents and purposes, it's a flash oven that heats to 1835 degrees Fahrenheit. So, when do they state when they want to put the fire suppression in? Because I can't imagine starting up a flash oven at 1835 degrees Fahrenheit without making sure I can put a fire out.
They don't
say.
indicate when.
Okay.
They'll get around to it when they get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, best of luck with that. Okay. Back to our agenda. Gutsy. Item number 3, the town council committee assignments. Every year, also as part of the reorganization, we also will come up with assignments, and in your packet, you have a list of the past committee assignments, some of which we've always filled and we're required to fill, some of which are not absolutely required and we may or may not fill. But this is an opportunity for people to volunteer to be the council rep on various different boards. And if they don't volunteer, maybe they'll be appointed. And if that doesn't work, we'll beat them severely until they give up with wet noodles. You guys have appointed me to be the chairman and Finley Rothaus to be the vice chair, so that's taken care of. The Adult Community Center representative has been Nancy Harrington.
Yes,
You want to still do that?
I still want to do that, and when we get to the bottom, I have a request.
We'll get there. Okay, so if that's all right with everybody, we'll let Nancy Harrington continue as the Adult Community Center rep. The Agricultural Commission was Finley Rothaus. Finley, did you want to stay with that, or?
Well, I actually haven't been working that committee, so if somebody would like to do it, that would be good.
Is there anybody interested in picking up the Agricultural Commission as a council representative?
Which isn't required, but
Which is not required. That's right. Okay, we'll leave it blank for the moment. It looks like Paul's name has been volunteered for the same positions that Eileen was holding, which is the authorized sewer representative, the cemetery trustee, and the Chamber of Commerce.
So Paul is king of the dead now?
King of the Dead, yep. Happily gave that one up, huh? Unless somebody wants to take on one of those positions. What? Oh. Are people happy with that, or does anybody want one of those positions, like king or queen of the dead? Okay, Conservation Commission was Peter Albert, so we need to fill that one. That's one of the required ones.
I'd be interested.
Okay. Was anybody else interested in Conservation Commission? What, you sent me a note saying you wanted something, planning board. Never mind. So if people are okay with that, we'll leave Nancy Murphy. Nancy, you're gonna be Conservation Commission rep?
and that's a very good committee. Everybody that is
Yeah,
on
everyone
that
likes
loves
it.
that, yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
They're a good group of people.
Very active, absolutely.
They're a very active group, yeah. Heritage Commission was Barbara Healy. And still is, still wants to be. Everybody okay with that? Highway Safety Committee. That needs new blood, I think.
Oh,
No,
no,
just kidding.
no.
What do they meet, once every 2 years or something?
Once every 2 years.
It's not
Over
often.
beers.
And
No.
the membership has changed. The reason it was, I mean, it's still great, they're fun. It's, it's a quick meeting. It's no more than an hour. It is in the middle of the day, but it was all old timers when I first started doing it. Guys have been around for decades, and unfortunately, they've been dropping off, and so
And you're becoming one of the.
I'm one of the old guys now. So true. So I would like to keep it if I might.
Okay, I don't hear any arguments. Merrimack Safeguard, we haven't filled that in the past, and I don't even know what it means.
I think
I think it's defunct,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's out because it used to be part
Oh,
of the
defunct.
the resource officer.
Resource
grant.
officer, yeah.
Yeah, so can we just remove that?
Take it off the list entirely.
It might as well. Okay, the National Regional Planning Commission. Bill is on it now, and he's asked, if possible, to continue to be the council's representative on it. So if anybody
I'd be
else
happy with
would
that.
prefer to be that,
So it would be like a citizen representative?
yeah.
Oh.
Well, it'd be the council rep, but it would be a citizen, much like we had somebody doing something, anyway. It meets 4 times a year or something
Yeah,
like
4
that.
times a
We
year.
have 3 or 4 reps, 4 positions in the National Regional Planning Commission, one of which is open. So whether you're the council rep or not, we could certainly appoint you as a town
Correct, you
rep.
could.
So if somebody else has an interest in doing that, we
I
we
just
can
make a
open
comment.
that
Bill's
position.
been with
Lon?
NRP.
You'd like to be on it? So would you mind being the town
The-
rep as opposed to the
A
council rep?
citizen rep.
Well, I'd have to apply through the planning board to get on.
Do you think they might not?
I don't know. I don't know about my relationship with them, but, I'll have to make a few phone calls.
We're in high places now. Come on.
So we'll put Lon Woods into that, and we'll put in a good word for Bill to be the 4th position.
One, it's a great group of people, very diverse. I think you'll really enjoy it. Okay, good.
Okay. New Hampshire Rail Transit Authority, we've got it lined out. Are they coming active again, or? Not yet.
It's a possibility depending on
What's going on?
what's going on.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll keep an eye
I
on it.
keep hearing rumblings, so.
Okay. Parks and Rec was Lon Woods in the past? Unless somebody wants to kick him out of that? Sounds like he's interested. Even without your mask, I can tell your face on that one. So we'll let Lon Woods continue with Parks and Rec. Or even with your mask. Bill Boyd was our planning board voting member. And we're looking to fill that spot. Were you interested in that, Barbara?
I could be.
You are awesome.
You
You're gonna make me twist your arm or what?
How do you learn that stuff, though?
You get thrown into the fire and you see if your feet burn. I mean, it's not, I mean, they will train you. There is various trainings available. Sitting through the meetings, you learn a lot quickly.
Yeah.
And if you would like to do that, you're welcome to, and I'll continue to be the secondary alternate when you can't make a meeting or something like that.
This isn't meant to denigrate the great work that Bob Bess has done chairing and you for the numerous years that you've done, but I would actually take Nelson Disco to Hot Rise for coffee and pick his brain, because he's been on this board now for forever.
Seems like 30 years.
It's easily. He knows his stuff. He is, to me, it would even, you would learn from Tim Thompson, but there's nobody better institutionally, I feel, than learning from Nelson. That would be my immediate recommendation if you wanted to do that.
Nelson is very fair, he's very thorough.
Absolutely.
He's very solid in the issues and has been on that board forever.
He was the chairman for probably close to 30
He
years.
was
30
chairman
years.
for,
Yeah,
a
him
huge
and-
long time.
Him and Pete were like frickin' frack,
Yeah.
so.
So we'll put Barbara in there. And if you can't make it or something like that, I'm gonna go ahead and set myself as alternate unless somebody else wants to be on the planning board. I'm sure Finley's dying to do it, but
I did that for a number of years, a long time ago, and it's work, and I enjoyed it a lot. I have 6 grandsons now, and so that's a little more fun. But,
oh my gosh.
and yeah, my first granddaughter's on the way.
Oh, was she gonna be a diva?
Oh my God. Yep. I'm counting on it. So,
Of course,
She's
what's
not
an
even-
Irish diva?
She's not even gonna be a week gold, and
Oh
he'll
my
be,
gosh.
he'll be under her control. That'll be it. He's done.
Who's the lion guy?
The thumb's already ready.
The
Put a fork in your filly, you're done.
Technology Committee, we unfortunately
Yeah.
didn't bring that back up to decide whether or not we were gonna lower the number of committee members or something like that. We have to get that on next agenda maybe.
Perfect.
Because in the
Yeah.
minutes, it says we're gonna
Nancy,
put it
just to
in
let you know,
this one or
that
last
we
one.
don't have enough, they don't have enough to have quorum. So we're gonna try to decrease the number, so.
I don't know. That's probably a discussion we should have at a council meeting. But until then, we can have a rep. Do you want to continue with that? Right now, yep. And then the Town Center Committee was Finley,
Unless somebody wants it, I enjoy doing it. I'll stick with that too.
okay?
And that's a midday meeting as well.
Oh, all right.
Kind of once a month. They skip once every once in a while. Fridays at noon. And they've been meeting virtually, which of course does drive me a little crazy, but that's the way it's been going on. So I've been able to park a vehicle and sit there and do it from my
Okay.
phone.
So that
I'd
gets
like-
through our list. Is there anything anybody else wants to suggest? Barbara?
Well, I would like the MYA, since I'm meeting with them every month, to be
Is-
listed as
Did I
not
miss that, or is
required.
it just
It's not here.
It's not here, it was added this year. And it's a not required status, but I do meet with them every month.
Good point.
And the other thing, which is not on our list, we can decide, I don't think it should be, because it's not a constant, but I have been the town council representative on the HB 737 Statutory Commission,
Mhm.
and so is Nancy. Now, Nancy wrote the legislation, and I honestly think she should be the town council rep. in my place. I
Okay.
mean, I think it's been great, and but I think she deserves to be it. One, she's been on the commission from the beginning, so it's not a matter of catching up. I've already spoken to Nancy about this, so I'm not surprising her. Now, what will happen
That's good.
is, she presently is the community rep. So if it's allowed, if the council agrees to officially make her the town council rep, then there will have to be a community rep designated. And that has nothing to do with us.
And that can't be a town councilor as well?
Correct.
Not
We-
supposed to be.
We double check the language and,
No, it has to be a citizen. The bill was specifically written so that it wasn't all just government officials. It was citizen
Oh, okay.
representation.
Mhm.
Okay.
so I'd like to propose that with permission from the council to do that. And she's receptive to it, so, obviously. I just think it's fair. It makes perfect sense,
We'll trade Nancy's then, okay.
okay? So she's gonna be the commission rep from the town council. So we'll
And
have to
that's-
notify somebody who, okay, but would
Is
it
she
be an
the chair,
official
or-
written,
Oh,
would it be official written notification to her? I've spoken to Rosemary too, just to let you know. So we'd have to have, town would have to write a letter just verifying to Rosemary Rung. Well, you're the chair.
can it? Okay, thank you. Um,
With the assistance,
With the assistance
while
of
she's here.
town staff.
Thank you.
That's HB 737?
Correct.
Okay.
HB 737 Statutory
Water
Commission.
Okay. Nancy Murphy. Anything else? Did you have something, Barbara?
Yeah, we have the 275th committee, and I'm on that. Do we want to add that to this list? I mean, it will be over by the end of the year.
Well, that's
so-
what I'm thinking even with the commission. These should be standing, going on. The commission shouldn't be on the list.
Oh, you don't, it's not
No,
a
because
standing?
it's only a time limited.
Is it?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's still taking a
Well,
resource.
okay.
It's just for
I just
21,
thought of it
22 that
differently,
we're
that's
talking
all.
about, but, yeah. Okay, but you're gonna still work with the 275th?
Oh, yeah. I got the
Regardless.
cookbook.
Huh?
Got that cookbook.
Oh. Good.
Cookbook supervisor.
Any other thoughts or additions, changes? Okay. So we'll pass that on as well, which brings us to approval of minutes from town council meetings, March 25th.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the Thursday, March 25th, 2021 Town Council meeting minutes with the following change. Page 7, line 1. I don't know who made the motion, and I don't know who seconded it.
That happened last time, too. Okay,
And then I'll defer to Barbara, because that's all I have.
Okay, on page 1, under announcements, line 5, we have stars, asterisks. I'm not sure why.
what?
Line 5, under
15.
announcements.
Line 15?
15.
15, no. Under
Oh, you're
announcements.
missing the one in front of your 5 there.
Ah.
How did you? You're talking about the names where it just starts with John Newman Church?
Yes. And
That's
there's,
line 15.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
line 15. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down.
I don't know,
You're just-
they're cut off probably.
Yeah,
So anyways, but there are asterisks there.
those stars are just saying it's something specially noted, I think.
Oh, I have never seen them before on any other document.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, I think it just is a special note to contact the town clerk's office
Mm-hmm.
to find special information. We could take them off if you think that they're distracting.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's fine.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question. On page 3, lines 5 and 6, it talks about placing the RTO online on July 30th of 2021 is required to complete the analysis testing by June 30th of 2021. And I guess I don't remember, but it seems odd that those dates are off by exactly a month, whether
They, there,
the RTO is supposed to be on by
Correct.
Yep,
July
correct.
Correct.
30th, not 31st.
correct.
Okay, great.
And it's the month before, yeah.
And down in, as I was reading through it, at line 3940 is where it talked about putting the item on the agenda for the Technology Committee. And I missed that, so we just need to try and reiterate that we need to bring that up in the future. On page 6, line 38, we had a motion that Bill Boyd wanted to vote present, but it's got him listed as abstaining, or that third position is usually abstaining. I don't know how we would record that if we're gonna do a voted present.
5001. 5001.
So put in another 0 there?
Another 0, absolutely.
Okay. So 5-0-0-1,
Correct.
okay.
That's a good catch.
As long as you keep the verbiage, we'll vote on
And that's all I've got in this set of minutes. Any other changes or additions,
Needs a se-
corrections?
Needs a second, Mr. Chair.
Do we need a second for accepting the minutes with corrections?
Correct.
Finley's seconded the approval. So we have the minutes of March 25th, moved by Bill Boyd, seconded by Finley to approve them with corrections as noted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstaining? That passes.
I was absent.
You're going to abstain as well. So with Nancy, both Nancys
Nancy squared.
are abstaining. That passes 5-0-2 with Nancy and Nancy abstaining. Okay. We have minutes from April 8th.
Mr. Chairman, move the Thursday, April 8th, 2021 Town Council meeting minutes with the following change. Page 7, line 26. I'm sure Councilor Rothaus would like an extra H added to his name. You're welcome, Mr. Councilor Rothaus.
Is that it?
That's all I had. And I'll defer to Councilor Healy.
Thank you for that. Page 2, hopefully my numbers didn't get cut off this time. Line 15,
50?
15,
15 this
is that
time, again.
Massachusetts accent, I'm sorry. Actually, it started at 9:30, not 9 a.m.
Huh?
It says beginning 9 a.m. at the Merrimack High School. It was supposed to be 9:30.
Page 2,
Page 2,
line,
15.
15.
oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't see that. Was it 9:30?
Uh-huh.
I thought it said 9 a.m.
Uh-uh.
Oh, this was the
The
pre-processing.
pre-processing.
Okay,
Okay, on page 4, line 46, I'm sorry, 45 and 46, they refer to Dawn as Dawn, and it should be Miss Tamulia.
it should be what?
It should be Miss and her last name,
Tuamala.
instead of
Okay.
her first name. It's not polite.
You got, so replace Dawn with Mr. Tomala,
Correct.
wherever it is in there.
Yep. And on page 7, line 1, as you read across the line, it stated that the day the bids opened, well, they were opened, you need a verb in there, were.
Okay,
And,
the bids were opened.
yep. The last one I have isn't really, it's just a question because I didn't see it in here. On the last page, I'm sorry, page 9, almost the last, under number 7 for the donation from the Scouts. Did we
Mhm.
send a card to them to thank them?
Well, to
No.
the Scouts or to the Rotary Club? The Scouts
No,
have.
The Rotary Club got one, but I wondered,
But
should
the
we,
Scouts all along have donated their surplus
Correct.
funds to the Parks and Rec Department
we never
as each
thanked them?
fund goes.
Mm.
Well,
Just
okay,
a thought.
I don't know that we send them a specific card.
We do to the Rotary.
I know, but these Scouts are working on their Eagle projects. So we've given them an opportunity, whereas the Rotary is just being generous. But if you want to send them a card, we could send them a card.
Just bringing it up.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on the minutes? So, Finley?
Actually, if there were cards, it would have been multiple, because as I recall, it's
Right, there's a whole
leftovers
bunch
from a number of different Boy
10 or
Scouts.
15 different
It was
Yeah.
consolidated leftover
consolidated
money.
together, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So if we did it at this point in time, it would be way after the fact. Maybe going forward, it would be good if anybody gives donations that we send them a thank you. Okay. It's probably picayune to talk about it, but on page 1, line 33, line 31 starts out, Assistant Town Manager McCallie made the following announcements, and then line 33 says, Assistant Town Manager, Finance Director Paul McCallie presented an update. And so I was thinking if we took out that first part all the way through Ann and just started out with the dot being update on the transfer station, and then took out he stated that and just said the station will be open and remain on a normal. And a similar thing, I thought, on line 15 of page 2, the public is more than welcome seems like an overstatement. The public is welcome. More than welcome is always, seems to me a strange way to phrase things. Not a big deal. On page 3, line 22, it talks about employees achieving ranking at the UNHT squared, New Hampshire Road Scholar, and then later on it talks about the UNHT2 Center workshops. We ought to be consistent. I don't think T squared is really the name of it. I think it's TT. So I'm not sure it should be T2. But we could check into that maybe and just clarify how that should be referred to. And through a lot of these motions that are listed, and the first one I noticed was on page 5, line 33. It talks about a motion made by Councilor Albert and seconded by Councilor Healy to consider the relocation. And the agenda item was to consider the relocation. The motion should be to move it or to accept the relocation as opposed to considering it.
Right.
And that also occurs on multiple pages later on, page 8 and page 9. So if we can just remove the to consider and make it more of a statement of what we're accomplishing.
Or approved.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
To approve that activity as opposed to considering it.
So
um,
instead of consider, put to approve, and that fixes it.
Okay,
To
Works for me.
approve the relocation.
yeah. On page 6, line 10, based on this funding, bids were prepared with engineer Wright Pierce. It's the engineering firm Wright Pierce. There's not an engineer named Wright Pierce that we're working with.
Good catch.
And the bids were opened. Consider, and that's all I had. So if there's no other changes or corrections, deletions, we'll vote on the motion to accept the minutes as modified.
Did we have a second?
We need a second to it.
I'll do the second.
I thought we had one for that one. Okay. Who made the motion? You did?
I did.
Bill made the motion.
Bill
I'll
made the
second.
motion and Nancy is seconding the motion to approve the minutes as corrected. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? So Nancy and Lon are abstaining? because Lon wasn't here, right?
I weren't here.
You weren't here?
Nancy
You didn't
Murphy.
enjoy all our time
I'm
together?
gonna be here much longer tonight either.
I'm trying, I really am. Okay, so that passes 5-0-2 with Nancy Murphy and Lon Woods abstaining. Which brings us to comments from the press, comments from the public, comments from the council.
Everybody look to Bill. I honestly don't know where to begin, folks. I really don't.
Better mark that down, just a minute.
Go right ahead, Mr. Chairman, it's your prerogative. It's absolutely your prerogative. It's 10 past 10, and I hope you folks will be proud of me, because I actually thought about putting my thoughts down on the paper, and I decided against it because I really wanted to be as succinct as I can. So I'm certainly gonna do my best. But when I've sat behind this dais for the last 10 years, it becomes very difficult to encapsulate some of, everything that has happened during the last 10 years. I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Chairman, for highlighting all of Eileen's accomplishments, because Eileen and I came in together and we're going out together. And that is not lost on me at all. And I didn't want to say what I wanted to say back when we were honoring Eileen, because I'm very grateful that I could probably say that the number of times that Eileen and I had a dogfight, it's all in this right hand, right here.
But it was knocked down, dragged.
It was a knocked out, drag out. But I say this with absolute sincerity. I have the utmost professional respect for Eileen. Eileen and I also had two really, we had a thing that we related to involving our personal health that we commiserated with. I absolutely looked up to Eileen as like a big sister. If I could have a big sister, it would be Eileen, and I mean that with all sincerity, because I think when I'm new and you get to work with somebody that has been in municipal government for the umpteen number of years that Eileen has been in it, you tend to sit back, you tend to open up your ears and pay attention and actually learn something, as my father would be wanting to say. Just open up your ears and learn something, Bill. Okay. So, with that being said, thank you, Eileen, for everything. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try really hard not to cry, because I have thoroughly enjoyed sitting here with everyone here. I would be remiss if I did not mention, God rest his soul, Dave Yakubov, who, when I first joined the council, going through my first budget hearing, Dan Dwyer called me up and he's like, "How's it going with the budget?" And I said, "Well, I got about 90 some odd questions." He went outside and wanted me and Tom together, which was kind of funny. So apparently Dwyer called Yakubov, and then Yakubov is like, "Are you home?" Like, "Yeah, come on over, I'll make coffee." So I went over to what's the name of his company? All Basics, and went upstairs to his big office. We had coffee. We went through that budget for 2.5 hours, and my 98 questions got whittled down to 3 legitimately good questions. The point that I'm getting at is, and I say this with deference to Councilor Murphy, you're gonna have a lot of questions. Do not be afraid to ask your questions in private before you get up in front of here. Do not be afraid. That would be the best piece of unsolicited advice I could tell you, is ask your questions. Ask them ahead of time, because you'll get a lot of your answers before a meeting. I would be remiss if I did not mention Jackie Flood and the impact that Jackie had, I think, on all of us, just in the way that she presented herself, and the way she thought about things, and the way that she approached these meetings. So I mentioned my good friend Dan Dwyer. Dan encouraged me to run back in 2011. The one that I consider to be a very good mentor, Tom Mahon. And I think Tom Mahon has always been a mentor to all of us. I mean, his wealth of knowledge of of government and teaching it and hearkening back, Eileen has Laconia, Tom had Pelham. And, I'll never forget Tom's stories about Pelham. And lastly, I do want to thank Jody Valancourt in being able to serve with her and the perspective that she brought to this council. And obviously, last but not least, my neighbor, Tom Thornton. I want to thank Tom for serving with me during my time here on the council. Like I said, everything it's been a blur this past week. I got sworn in yesterday. Before I got sworn in, somebody yelled down the corridor as Executive Councilor Dave Will and I were walking. Somebody yelled out council. We both turned around to address the guy, which was, kind of funny. And then I get sworn in, and they referred to me as representative, and it went over my head. I'm like, and I turned to I'm like, I got to get used to that, don't I? So it's, a lot of it remains surreal, but it's sublime. There's no doubt about that. And I've said it on social media, I've said it on Facebook, but I would be remiss if I just didn't say it publicly. For those people that don't have social media, thank you for the privilege of serving you for the last 10 years. Thank you so much for the privilege of serving you, of going to serve you up in Concord. The moment is absolutely not lost on me. I'm going to work very hard to be as authentic as I am here, to be authentic up there in Concord, because part of me likes to believe that that's the reason why that you've allowed me the privilege of sitting here for the last 10 years, is it always been true. You may not like where I've stood on the issues part of the time or most of the time or whatever, but you always knew where I stood. And I'm very grateful for the privilege that you've bestowed to me. I certainly would be remiss if I didn't thank the voters for coming out last Tuesday. 5,000, I'm sorry, that's just awesome. We got people to participate in our town government that normally wouldn't have, that were drawn to the race between myself and Wendy Thomas and Stephen Hollenberg. And while I'm thinking about it, I want to thank them. I'm indebted to them for putting their names on the ballot and their willingness to serve and to talk about the issues that are intimate to our community. The one thing I do want to say is that when I'm very proud to be from Merrimack. I'm very proud to have been associated with you folks, and not just you, but also the rest of the community. The values and the roots that we've sunk into the ground here in our community. And there's a little bit of all of you that I'm taking with me to Concord, so I'm very much appreciative of that fact. And lastly, behind every good town councilor is their spouse and their family, and I want to thank my wife, Michelle, and I want to thank my daughter, Jade, for supporting me with this, because I have no idea where this journey is going to take me, to be perfectly honest with you. But it is very reaffirming to know that the love of my wife and the love of my daughter has not only sustained me through this 15-week campaign of wanting to be state representative, but also making the sacrifices of every other Thursday night in planning board meetings and whatever other committee that I was serving. They have to acclimate and they have to adjust to hubby or daddy not being at home. So I'm very grateful to them. So that being said, the one other thing I do want to say, and I had to quickly write these names now. There were 8 people that ran for school board: David Seidow, Michelle Bronchuk, Ken Martin, Chandra Miller, Scott Sabins, Jen McCormick, Rachel Papke, and Jamie Von Schoen. I want to thank you for putting your names on the ballot. And as you've heard Chairman Koenig say, and you probably have heard me at the planning board, we have vacancies in our community, in the boards, that would absolutely relish your willingness to serve and begin to participate on some of the issues that are important here in our community. Please don't, and I don't want this to sound crass or snarky, but I think using social media as a medium to express oneself is all well and good. I think if you could take that a step further, not saying that you folks do that, but if you could take a step further and participate, whether it be heritage, zoning, planning board, we need help. We have vacancies. Our community is growing, and our community can only be as good as its people that choose to sit on these particular boards. And I certainly am reaching out to you personally, along with everybody else here in the community, not just these 8 individuals, but other people in the community. Please step up. There's a lot of growth going on in town. Be a part of the solution. Be a part of the answers. To do that is participating. Lastly, Lon, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me on a personal level. I really do appreciate it. Finley, you're one of my closest friends, and I appreciate everything, the talks, the phone calls, the 9 hot dogs at every BC football game. It's an inside joke, folks, I apologize. Nancy, out of everybody here, whenever something was going on in my mind, you're the one that I really wanted to get somebody's buy-in, because if you didn't have your buy-in, I was going to have everybody else's buy-in. I knew that from the onset. So I thank you very much for being a good sounding board. Thank you very much for being a friend. I really appreciate it. Barbara, I've enjoyed working with you. I've enjoyed serving with you. I appreciate everything you did for me over the past 15 weeks. It is not going to notice, especially to your husband, Bob. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And I know that I, like Nancy here, and with Councilor Murphy as well, the fight's not done. You know, I campaigned on this issue to continue the fight up in Concord. There are things that I want to accomplish, not just as it relates to Saint-Gobain, but to make sure that we are addressing, proprietary compounds. We are addressing Gen X. It doesn't end with PFAS. There are other things that we need to be doing, which is why I was emphatic about the public health piece, because we have no idea what those chemicals are doing to the people that live in our community. So I'm going to be, I'm going to be the 399 ranked member in the House of 400 up there. But I'm certainly going to be asking all 3 of you for help on the bills that I would like to bring forward and for the House's consideration for their approval, the Senate's approval, and hopefully the governor's signature. So, but all that being said, thank you so much for everything that you've done to educate me on that issue, and for being a very good colleague to me here. I appreciate it. And lastly, Tom, learned so much from you in 2 years. There's a lot to being said to being very quiet and listening. I think that's one of the great qualities that you bring, not just as chairman, but as a counselor. Going back to your Board of Selectmen days, you stuck out to me when I was new to the community. You stuck out to me very quickly because you only spoke when you had something to say, and doggone it, you're absolutely on point. And it's because you were on point, because you were paying attention to the dialogue, whether the dialogue was on point or meandering. You paid attention to what was being said, and I think it's a testament to who you are as a leader in this community, but also as a person, as to how you're able to capture detail, cut through it, and get to the bare essence of what needs to be said. And it's a wonderful trait, and I'm very happy that you shared that with me. It's one of the things I've picked up. And quite honestly, I had an unsolicited email from a friend of mine who's currently serving there, and is basically verbatim to what I'm saying to you about now. Just pay attention, open up your ear, open up your ears. Don't be afraid to talk, because you might not get another coaching chance to do so. So thank you so much for being a mentor and being a friend to me. I appreciate it. And last but not least, to the employees of the town of Merrimack, to the fire department, the police department, community development, public works, the women that work the town clerk's office every day, Diane and Brenda, who run the clerk's office, IT, who else am I forgetting? Wastewater down at Public Works, Finance, I'm sorry. Oh, my God, Nick, Colin, and Justin, for making all of us look good every other Thursday night, for promoting Community Access TV, Please continue to promote community access. It's a great medium for people to talk in this community like I'm doing right now. But again, circling back to all the employees, for what you do day in and day out, for what you've done the last year in this pandemic, it's been yeoman's work. You did it with class. You did it with a sense of bravery, and I mean that sincerely, because as Kyle Fox alluded to, we had no idea what this virus was, and these folks came to work every day to serve the people of this community, and they are absolutely to be commended for that particular work. All of that being said, I will be tendering my resignation as a member of the Merrimack Town Council effective April 30th, 11:59 p.m., 59 seconds. It was the arrangement I made with my wife and my daughter when I first embarked on running for state rep, that they did not want me burning two candles at both ends, and I think that's absolutely fair. It was great advice. I've given 10 years worth of work that, Eileen did, what made us all look good, but I like to think I was a part of it. But I look forward to continuing the conversation that's going on in the community and fighting for it up in Concord. It was horrible timing with how it all came about, and I still think of Dick and Pat and Kelly to this day, like to this moment in time. They're always going to be in my prayers. But I've looked at it as an opportunity to continue Dick's service up in Concord. I truly believe that. And again, I want to thank the voters for allowing me to do that. So thank you so much to the town of Merrimack for serving here for the last 10 years. Thank you for sending me to Concord. I'm humbled, and I am honored, and I will never lose sight of that fact. But I will, as I said, I will be stepping down at the end of this month, and I would encourage anybody, especially, I'm sorry, Andy Hunter, who put his name on the ballot for town council. I certainly hope Andy would consider applying for the position or applying for other positions here that are in town. I certainly hope he would do that. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve this community. This community means the world to me. And thank you for giving me, I'm looking at it now, I've given you 20 minutes of my time. That's 20 minutes you won't get back, folks. I apologize. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And it's been an honor to sit behind you here. And to everybody here, and my regrets, I won't be able to get to serve with you, Council Murphy. But Barbara, Tom, Eileen, Nancy, Finley, and Lon, and DePaul, I love you guys. And I mean that. Thank you so much. And to the town of Merrimack, I love you too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bill. We appreciate your 10 years of service. And we think you've done a great job, and we're going to miss you. That's about all I can say.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, let me just take a brief moment then to point out if we're accepting Bill's resignation, which I think would only be fair.
It'll be in writing tomorrow, Mr. Chairman, just so you know.
Not a problem.
Bittersweet.
Effective the end of the month, we have 21 days from his resignation to fill the position. So we need to figure out what we want to do as far as posting it and getting people to submit applications. We've had some people express interest. I think it's important that now that the position is officially going to be open, they should they should send in a resume or an application specific based on the fact that the opening exists as opposed to maybe it's going to exist. I think we should ask that people send in to the town manager's office, probably attention Becky would be just as good as any, an interest in the position, and have it done by, open it up from now until when? The 7th maybe? Or does anybody have any thoughts or ideas? Officially, it's not even a vacant seat until the 1st.
Right.
But again, we only have 21 days. So we need to give them some time, get that information in, and we have to schedule interviews. Last time we scheduled interviews on that the interest, the thing went out on the 23rd of April. The interviews the interest letters and resumes had to be in by Monday, May 3rd. And interviews were scheduled for Wednesday, May 5th, and Thursday, May 6th. Last time we had a vacancy.
So if you're gonna do that, you're basically making a verbal announcement now, even though it's not official until the letter,
I mean,
right?
it's, yeah,
So are you suggesting the due date for a letter of interest and a resume be submitted by May 7th? Is that what you said?
well, that's what, yeah, I'm fine.
That
This
sounds
wasn't-
right.
Those were the dates upcoming, those weren't the dates from the past one. This is
Yeah,
based on the format of what we did last time. This
Yeah.
is what Becky put together for me. I was just noticing the dates are 2021. So she's already filled it in.
yeah.
That you
That
should
sounds
have
right.
your letter of interest and resume in by 4:30 PM on Monday, May 3rd.
Okay.
Including qualifications, personal characteristics, length of residency, previous positions held, and experience related to this position. 2, Town of Merrimack, attention, Town Council vacancy, 6 Babusick Lake Road, Merrimack, New Hampshire, 03054. And that interviews would then be scheduled to be held on Wednesday, May 5th, and Thursday, May 6th.
Gotcha.
If that works for people. We could go
Sounds
ahead and
good.
have Becky submit this.
Lon has a question.
Are we gonna post that on the town website?
It'll be on the website, it'll probably be sent out to the newspapers as well as
Okay.
as
Probably
a
on the cable as well?
announcement. Yeah, we should have it up on the cable, on the bulletin board or something like that. I'm not, yeah.
Sounds good.
So do those dates sound reasonable?
Letters in by when?
By May 3rd is what she's got here. Monday, May 3rd. That gives,
Pretty quick.
yeah, I mean, if people are interested, they probably know it already.
Yeah, they know it now.
And hopefully they're paying attention. And just gives us a little bit more flexibility or leeway. I'm gonna be out of town for our first meeting of May, Finley. May 13th.
Finley and I are gonna be out,
What?
Finley and I are gonna be out of touch that day.
On May 13th? So, that'll give us a chance to get that opportunity, to get that going forward and maybe, yeah. If we have to make a decision by the 21st of May, the 13th is the only meeting we can really do it.
Right,
The next meeting is the 27th,
correct.
so
Sounds
maybe I'll
right.
call in, who knows? So is that all right to go ahead and set this up? That we'll make the announcement tomorrow, based on your statement of
Absolutely, yeah. I just realized, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to thank Peter Albert. Oh,
You just did.
out of sight, out of mind. He wanted to leave early.
oh, this is true.
Finley tried to get him to stay to the end of the meeting.
This is true, so,
Okay. I'm sure he'll understand.
I know he will.
May I make a
Besides, he'd
statement?
prefer to have a beer with you anyway.
Yes,
A statement to Bill, literally it's like 2 sentences. Thank you for your words. Congratulations. And don't forget us down here.
Yeah.
We will be calling you and the other reps. And I really am thankful. Maureen's done a really good job of keeping us and that's exactly what we need. Little
Yeah,
blurbs.
just to know,
and-
little quick blurbs.
And so, yeah, that's why, don't forget about us that way. But I think you're gonna do great. And you're gonna, first of all, you're gonna enjoy it like hell. I know you will. And that's what
we'll
you
find,
need.
we'll
That's
find,
what you need to do. You have to be able to have that. But we'll miss you here too, so good luck.
appreciate it,
and-
thank you. What I will tell the council is I sought the Public Works Committee, Transportation and Resources and Recreation in light of the Turnpike expansion and the PFAS issues, because I felt those committees would best represent. Plus, the Public Works Committee also has the 10-year transportation plan, which is up next year. So we shall see what happens. And I'm trying to stay on the New Hampshire Drinking Water and Groundwater Advisory Commission, because I have to step down as
That's right, too.
I have to step down as the municipal member, but the speaker had indicated to me that he would talk to the representative to see if there was a
Position you could be in.
position I could be in, so.
Well, when you have that much experience, you want to be able to monopolize and capitalize on that.
It's,
So
it's a skill set.
It's like Nancy. you know,
Absolutely.
She's got the
Absolutely.
knowledge.
Okay. Any other announcements or comments from the council?
Thank you, Councilor Boyd.
Thank you, Lawrence.
You've done very well. Barbara, no?
No.
Didn't? No. So I will just take a moment to echo Nancy's thoughts and thank you for your service, for your 10 years, for being the vice chair for the last 2 years and keeping me on track and helping to keep the council on track. You've done an excellent job at that. And I do wish you the best moving up to Concord. It's something I have no interest in doing. But then you don't see me meeting and knowing and greeting as many people as yourself. So you're a much more outgoing social type person. And I think that being able to be in that, it will be able to survive in that larger crowd up there and thrive with it, as Dick Hinch did. And I certainly wish all the best for you up there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If there's nothing else,
Could I have the honor?
you may.
We're all waiting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, seconded by Barbara Healy to adjourn the town council meeting April 22nd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings, to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.